rhinoceros out of me. You better watch out if your enemy's a road ahead of full prophecy to be the greatest beast the world has ever seen. I feed him every day like the bones clean. I feed him all the hate and he grows me, and he gets claws real big, gets off quick. And if you cross him, you might drop dead. Metaphorically, of course, settling the score, never getting bored. Loves the blood and gold, always wanting more freedom from the source. They don't really listen until they feel the force of party. And if you start shit, you be heartless in the darkness. Torn apart quick, you left scars ripped, you be chewed up and discarded.
And this world ain't right, won't accept it. Negative energy, I expect it. Once it's in your mind, it's infectious. So fight for your life and reject it. You better give me space, I'm protective. My adrenaline spikes when I'm threatened. And if you stay in my way, I'm aggressive. Cause when there's no exit, I'll kill when I'm desperate. When there's no exit, I'll kill when I'm desperate. And this world ain't right, won't accept it. Negative energy, I expect it. Once it's in your mind, it's infectious. So fight for your life and reject it. You better give me space, I'm protective. My adrenaline spikes when I'm threatened. And if you stay in my way, I'm aggressive. Cause when there's no exit, I'll kill when I'm desperate. When there's no exit, I'll kill when I'm desperate. dreams. I push a mind to a limit where it needs to feed. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns sour with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't
Hello and welcome to my Mind Over Your Matter. My name is Rick. Surprise! I was going to take the weekend off, but too many things going on, and I don't want to be piled on Monday talking about everything that's been going on because every day is a new day. Every day now is like a dangerous day. What in the world is going on? What is going on with humanity? We are in danger. If you don't feel it, that's good. That's good for you. That's really good. But for some of us, especially in certain areas, it's not very safe. And people are very opportunistic at this time. The enemy is already here, the enemy is within, and they're starting to attack and they're starting to cause havoc. It's just crazy. I hope everyone else who's here watching is home safe and is in a safe place. And always pay attention to your surroundings. Don't be out and about and getting yourself into a predicament that you're going to regret. And listen, I always tell people live life to the fullest. Do that, but also be cautious. Know what you're getting to. What is happening right now in the world has big time implications on what we all want to do in our lives here. You can't just go to places anymore and expect to be safe. It's just not. Be careful at movie theaters, be careful at theme parks, be careful in the subway, be careful, like, even in parks, having parties. Be careful because these opportunistic individuals do not care and they will ruin your day and possibly take your life. You're not safe in any trains. You're not safe in any planes. You're not safe even in your own damn car. So just be careful. Stay home if you can. You're safe at home. I know it's a burden to be at home, but for me, it's my sanctuary, and I'm safe. Without a let's see. All right, I got some stuff I gotta want to show you guys. Give me a second. So there was another death of an American, I guess, a soldier, I believe, or airman. I'm not 100% sure. We're gonna find out now together. So let's go ahead and set this up, and let's go ahead and watch live now.
Live now from Fox, I'm Andy Mack. We're learning new developments right now about that Operation Epic Fury as another U.S. service member, a seventh U.S. service member, tragically losing their life, paying the ultimate.
Yo, what's up, Chloe? What's up, Albie?
In the
How you guys doing today?
I want to put this up here from U.S. Central Command saying last night a U.S. service member passed away from injuries received during the Iranian regime's initial attacks across the Middle East. The service member was seriously wounded at the scene of an attack.
Another one passed away.
The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia back on March the 1st at the outset of Operation Epic Fury. They say this is the seventh service member killed in action during the Operation Epic Fury. Major combat operations continue.
I'm telling you, Iran is in it. This is going to be World War III. It's going to be.
Next kin notification. So
how can it not be?
Out of there,
how can it not be?
The president saying some of those death tolls will unfortunately
especially
continue to rise.
Russia
earlier this weekend, we did see President Trump
comes on and joins the battle.
U.S. service members that lost their lives during an attack in Kuwait. This was earlier this weekend here live now from Fox of what was going on. It's those 6 U.S. service members, U.S. Army Reserve soldiers who were killed this week in Kuwait watched as their loved ones were brought home on Sunday during that dignified transfer at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware on Saturday. President Trump was joined by First Lady Melania Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and other top military officials observing this solemn event on an overcast afternoon. President Trump aboard Air Force One later on said, quote, "It's a very sad day," but he continued on saying, quote, "We're so proud of this. These such deaths are always a very sad day." All 6 soldiers were assigned to the 103rd Sustainment Command, an Army Reserve unit out of Iowa. So we are now learning new information. A 7th U.S. service member tragically losing their life during this conflict in the Middle East.
All right. Well, let's keep it moving. Jason A.
And then eventually to create a
the
condition
15-minute
for another world
psychic.
war called the War of Gog and Magog, where Russia and Iran attack Israel together, which will usher in the end of the world.
And in an alarming new development, sources
If Russia
telling ABC
attacks,
News the U.S. believes Russia
Israel,
has been providing
United States
intelligence to
will blow the
Iran
shit out of
involving the
Russia.
locations of American
I'm
troops,
letting you know right
including
now.
aircraft and
It's going to be
ships in the
very
region.
bad for Europe.
The President of the
It'll be
United Arab
very bad
Emirates
for
has
the
said his
world.
country is in a state of war. He made the comments while visiting a hospital, treating some of those injured in Iranian attacks.
We are at war. I promise that we will perform our duty because it's our obligation and we must do this to protect them, protect our people and our country.
And this war can only escalate. So a massive turning point in this conflict will be the use of ground troops. If ground troops are used, then we are in World War III, and this will mark the end of the world as we know it. A ground war would also most likely draw in other actors as well.
Well, let's bring you some pictures
Yeah, I
we're
heard
just
about the
getting
Britney
now from
Spears
southern
that she got
Tehran,
arrested
and
or
you can
something.
see Iran's capital is
I'm not
under
even
fire.
paying attention to Britney.
Once more, on this,
They're
the
doing-
eighth
they are
day,
trying
of
to
course, of the
distract-
war in the Middle East. US President Donald Trump did
But I did
say
hear something
earlier
about-
today
it's Britney
that
dead.
Iran will be hit very
But,
hard. And you can see from these pictures
but to
with
me,
large flames
that's
and
just a
billowing
distraction.
smoke that the
I'm
military
so
is certainly carrying through
more worried about
with
what's
that
going to
promise.
be happening to us in the near future. Because look at this. This is crazy. And that's burning. That's oil. That's just caught. Listen, they try to go
How do
after
you read the
Israel,
broader impacts of what's going
oil,
on
and
economically, especially with the
and now
situation in the Strait of Hormuz, and
Israel
how
is
that
attacking
is having an impact around the world?
Of course. It's and I mentioned this on Al Jazeera, and I mentioned this also on other
that right
news
there
outlets. It's
is
going towards a direction of being a global economic disaster. This region
telling you,
provides the globe with 20% of its LNG exports, 20 to 25% of its crude oil exports, and it's important not to just focus on the energy aspect. This region also provides feed for the semiconductor industry in East Asia, the fertilizer industry in South Asia, in addition to other industries. So this can overheat not only the energy sector, but also other critical sectors in the globe. So it can, the effects of the continued closure of the Strait of Hormuz can be catastrophic for the global economy.
It may draw in the GCC. It may draw in the
bad for the
Europeans.
environment.
It will definitely draw in Russia.
Environmentalists.
It may even draw in
Greta.
China. And it may also draw in South Korea and Japan as well. Because remember, the Strait of Hormuz supplies most of the oil to the Asian economies of Pakistan, India, Japan, South Korea, and China. In fact, the Strait of Hormuz provides about 75% of all of Japan's oil needs. And the Japanese Prime Minister, Takahashi, has said that if this war continues, if the Strait of Hormuz continues to be closed, then Japan will run out of oil in about 8 months' time.
They're not going to run
So we
out
can
of oil.
imagine
Why
that
are they
there
pushing
is
your shit,
panic
man? Why are they listening
within
to
the Japanese cabinet,
15-minute psychic?
and they are actually
minute paper
preparing
psychic?
to intervene somehow.
He's a professor.
in this
He's not a fucking
conflict,
psychic. He's
whether it's
trying to make it
diplomatically,
like
whether it's
he's
economically,
talking out of his ass.
or even militarily. South Korea may also need to come in as well.
Clearly, there is concern amongst the global
we have
community
oil.
and
We
global
have plenty of
leaders in
oil here,
particular about how
especially in
widespread this
Venezuela,
is
that we
going,
send
with the
to
Gulf
Japan.
states
So
being
it doesn't make
targeted.
any sense.
Qatar and the
And
UAE are
trust me,
essentially saying that they are prepared
I
and ready
believe
to enter
Venezuela
the
has
fight
more
to defend
oil
themselves.
than
They
Iran.
have come under attack
A lot
from
more
a neighbor,
untapped oil.
and that is obviously of significant concern to them. Look, when it comes to a timeline,
So I
when
don't
you
know
start
what
talking
oil
about
you're
timelines in
wondering.
conflict, Alex, it becomes increasingly
Especially from
difficult.
the
President
15-minute
Trump already
paper
put one on it. 4 to 5 weeks initially. That became 4 to 6 weeks. Secretary Hegseth said 8 weeks, and then until the job is done.
The outcome is to kill as many people as possible, to destroy the entire global economy, to destroy Iran, to force the United States out of the Middle East, to destroy the Gulf nation states, to suck Turkey into the war, to lead to the creation of the Greater Israel Project and eventually Pax Judaica. That's a script. That's a plan they have in mind. So it's all been preordained. It's all been scripted out, and that's exactly what's going to happen. And it's only a question of like time frame, like how long will this thing take? But they will send in ground troops into Iran. It will be a disaster, and Iran will be shattered. America will be forced out of the Middle East, and Israel will become the only standing power in the Middle East. That's what's going to happen.
And as questions mount as to
America's
whether there will be American boots on the ground, another sign of potential escalation, multiple officials telling ABC News the Army abruptly canceled a major training exercise for a unit of the 82nd Airborne Division that oversees deployments. The 82nd Airborne is the Pentagon's premier ground combat unit, fueling speculation that they may be getting ready to deploy to the Middle East if needed. But officials stress there are no orders to deploy right now. The scope of the war only growing larger and on to a second front as Israel expands its strikes deeper into Lebanon, waging war on the Iranian-backed proxy group Hezbollah, bombs ringing out in Beirut throughout Friday.
So you can see there the explosion right there. You can see the explosion. And there is the sound. It takes a little bit for the sound to travel. Obviously, you see the explosion first, then the sound reaches us. That is the latest strike and what has been strike after strike after strike.
Across the Iranian capital, day and night, the onslaught relentless. Locals claim it's the heaviest bombing since the war started a week ago. Here, an underground base for missile launchers and Iranian defense. The US president today demanding unconditional surrender.
Our military is doing phenomenally.
Iran's death toll so far, an estimated 1,332 people. Bodies still being hauled from the rubble of homes. Their war at an end, but Iran's battling on. Firing into neighboring Iraq, taking out Kurdish bases. As Iran hit another Iraqi
They're
target,
taking Iraq
US-owned oil company Halliburton.
I'm telling you,
Iran is still sending rockets and drones into Israel. Iron Dome on red alert. Interceptors protecting IDF headquarters in Tel Aviv as Israel turns attention north.
This is going to get a lot worse than any better. Look at the building collapse.
Downtown Beirut, entire buildings pulverized. The hunt for Hezbollah raging on.
Israeli troops are also moving up through the south as they focus on attacking that militia there. Iran says that the US and Israeli strikes have been intense, hitting an oil refinery and a desalination plant. Donald Trump has seen this apology by the Iranian president as somewhat of a surrender and saying that the attacks will only intensify. That's forced the Iranian foreign minister to say that Donald Trump has thwarted and killed any chance at de-escalating this war, so we can expect those attacks to continue over the coming days and who knows for how much longer.
Thank you, Jason A, for a great upload there, man. That was freaking a good one. We ain't seen nothing yet. There's a song like that. You ain't seen nothing yet. Baby, and you ain't seen nothing yet. It's not gonna be good. It's not good. Definitely see like World War III breaking out. But before we continue on with the news, because I got a good lineup for us to watch tonight. Since I have you here, Chloe, and you know I'm really into this Pokemon stuff, and and I'm getting into it not for me, but for my niece. I'm doing it for her. She's only 4 years old. She doesn't know what the fuck Pokemon is. I'm going to get her hooked on it. And I'm collecting for her. As a little 4-year-old growing up, her uncle's collecting her a collection that by the time she turns 18 years old, I say 17, 18, depending, she has to graduate from high school. And if she graduates early, then she'll get her gift early. And what I want to do is with my collection at that time, we're talking about a good 13, 14 years from now, I'm gonna sell the collection that I have and help her, well, buy a car for her and a new car and insurance for a year and gas for a year. And that's a goal that I set up for myself for her. I have 13 to 14 years to make this happen. Hopefully, I'm alive for it to happen. The way I've been feeling hasn't been good, so it gives me an objective to fight for. So I'm thinking, because I want to open a certain collection that I have. You can see I have a lot going on here. Um, I want to do something, right? And I want to see if it helps gather more subscribers to the channel. Okay. Um, and been debating and been trying to figure out ways to get more eyes on here. I could do my psychic work, and that's great, and I love doing that. That's how I started this whole channel, is with my abilities and my capabilities with, I guess, the psychic world. And I'm a great medium, awesome empath. Um, and I'm trying to see how can I combine both the Pokemon and what I do. And the reason why I got into the Pokemon, to be honest with you, because they do have psychic energy within the Pokemon. And there's psychic cards in the Pokemon. Like that right there really it came to me. I was like, wow, it's such a beautiful thing. I pulled out a couple of cards from my here it goes. I pulled out Hypno and Kadabra. I also got Abacadabra and Alakazam, and the 151 boxes that brings like 4 packs of 151, which is the white box over here. The white box here, the white box right here is the 151. The white box back there on top of the Superman little red box down there on top of the white box. That's a 151 also. Right now, and the reason why I'm like contemplating on opening at least one of them, it's just because each one of those packs, selling single packs, those are going for about $25 a pack. $25 a pack, and this one brings 4 packs in it. That's $100. That's $100 worth. So I'm like, I got like $300 worth with 12 packs. And if I wanted to, I can even sell it for $30 a pack, and they'll still pay for it. I'm like, these Pokemon's very crazy. And when the packs are very good and very scarce, people will pay top dollar for it. So I'm like, this is wild. And so I have really good, like I have the EBTs over here, and then the UPCs, and then I have the Sunday Heroes ETBs, which is the Elite Trainer box, and then I have the pin collection, which that one I don't want to open. To be honest with you, if I find another one, then I'll open that one. But that one I really don't want to open. I do have like 3 of the Pokemon Day 2026 collection. I got 3 of those, and I just got a whole variety of Pokemon right now. So I was thinking I wanted to do something, right, to make it interesting, right, for every day when I put up a video. I want it to be something like, oh shit, he's pulling this today, but I wanted to see how can I make this exciting in a ways. So I was thinking right? Getting like a box of the Ascended Heroes, maybe a couple of packages of, let's see, maybe a box, one of them of the 151. So I wanted to get all the packs, right, and get different packs and put it into a box, which I have here, right? This is a little psychic. It's funny. It is a psychic. It says psychic on it. It's like a psychic. Salem psychic. So I was thinking I was going to put the packs, like, let me zoom back in. I was going to put them in here, right? And put the packs in here. And then I was going to number them. And I was going to put like maybe from 1 to 50, right? And put 50 packs in there and just put them all, like, arrange them random. Like all of the packs will be at random. And then I'll just put a number on each one of them. And then what we could do is, like, I could get like a wheel or something and then like select, let the wheel select for me. Just press the button and then whatever number lands, that's the pack I go and get. And then I'll grab that pack and then I'll open it up for the shorts. I want to do it all within the short, because in the shorts, you only get 3 minutes. That's all. And I wish it was 5 minutes, because that way it gives you more time to be able to do more. And I think the short should be a 5-minute short, not just 3 minutes. But I'm trying to figure out a way to make it more interesting, and then also to bring in more subscribers, because I really want to bring in more people to listen, especially when I do my psychic stuff, because the world is going to need me. Plain and simple. And I tell you right now, UK, y'all need to keep your shit on a swivel, because they're already there. The enemy is there, and they're going to be attacking, like, the British from within. Just be very careful. Nowhere in Europe you're safe. You're not safe anywhere in Europe. All right. So let's go back to what we were watching. We're going to go back and watch some more news here. But I just wanted to see if the Pokemon idea, if it's... And you guys can let me know in the comments if you guys watch this later on. What should I do? Because I do have, like I said, I have the EBT Ascended Heroes that I could open. And then I could open one of the boxes of the 151. I could open up one of the Pokemon Day collection. I could open up a couple of other packs that I have here and just put it together and then just pick out. And I also got Perfect Order coming in on the 27th. So that's another thing I want to add on to the numbers of the packs and stuff, and just put the packs in all different random, and then pick a number, and then whatever number that comes out, that's the pack, we go for. I think that would be pretty cool. I like my idea. And I want to build up this channel. So there's going to be a time that I may not be able to come onto YouTube. I'm just letting you know right now. I have a feeling that I'm going to have to take a time out from YouTube. I don't know if it's going to be in April that I take the time out from YouTube, because I don't know. I just have a feeling that I'm going to be out of commission for a little bit, meaning I'm going to end up having surgery, and then I'm going to be out of it for a while. I don't know how long it's going to take me to come back, or if I come back and I could do my show from my bed or something. Do my show from the bed. Like, what? Rick, are you serious? It's like, yeah, I can do the show from my bed and then try to figure shit out, along the way. Do some tarot readings from my bed. Hey, I've done it before. I'll fucking do it again. Oh, Lord. But I hope everyone's having a good Sunday night. it's just a little chaotic in the world. So I just wanted to come on here and show you guys what's going on. So let's go ahead and tap it back into the news here, and let's watch.
Israel has targeted several oil facilities in Iran, striking fuel depots across the country, including the capital of Tehran. Residents are being warned to remain at home as authorities monitor the air quality.
It is like a scene from the apocalypse, flames pouring into the night sky over Tehran after Israel struck 4 separate oil facilities around the city. Benjamin Netanyahu had promised many surprises to come.
Their money.
These strikes were certainly one of them.
That's a big impact to their money.
Imagine being here when a spill from one of the depots explodes along the drains lining a street. The fires burning long into the night. And in the morning, vast plumes of black smoke billowing into the sky and across the city. The Iranian Red Crescent warning of toxic compounds in the air, which, mixed with the morning's rain, they said, were extremely dangerous.
You can see the fuel tanker trucks in the area that have clearly burned here and been destroyed. The fire is still ongoing.
This is your 15 minutes.
Despite the enemy's claims that it only strikes military targets, I deny this and state clearly that it is lying.
Israel says it's hit 400 military targets over the past day, and that the oil depots were used by Iran to fuel their missile launches. The Revolutionary Guard say they have plenty of missiles still in reserve.
They're not going to give up.
Capable armed forces, the powerful forces of the Islamic Republic, are fully prepared to sustain at least a 6 months, full-scale, high-intensity war at the current pace.
Promises not to strike the Gulf were quickly withdrawn. There was a massive fire at a high-rise building in Kuwait after a wave of drone and missile attacks there. And debris from intercepts causing damage across Israel, with 2 seriously injured, rescue workers say, from cluster munitions. We just got an alert on our phones here in Jerusalem and went to find the nearest shelter, and I just want to show you who it is in this building. And people are still sleeping at night down here because they're so worried about the sirens.
That's great. I would do the same shit.
In Israel, you have shelters in every building and people are used to coming downstairs and staying in them. But that won't be the case in Iran. It won't be the case all across the Gulf. And now there are missiles going in all directions. In Lebanon, the death toll is rising as Israel continues to pound Hezbollah targets. More than 390 now dead, 83 of them children.
Of course, they're going to put that.
This war on multiple fronts is reshaping the Middle East.
How about babies?
But the cost is heavy,
put the babies in there
and the
too?
Destination unknown.
Let's make it more dramatic.
Sky News, Jerusalem.
All the babies, the babies. All right, let's keep it moving.
All right, right now, here on Live Now from Fox, let's get our attention right now in New York City as we're learning new information about several ignited devices outside of Gracie Mansion, the home of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, that being the mayor, as the NYPD saying they are improvised explosive devices. From Jessica Tisch on social media saying the NYPD bomb squad conducted preliminary
this is crazy.
Device that was ignited, deployed at a protest outside, determined it is not a hoax device or a smoke bomb. It is in fact an improvised explosive device that could have caused serious harm or death. Further analysis will be conducted, including a second device. They are saying these individuals were arrested on the scene and are in custody in connection with this matter. NYPD working out this investigation with our partners at the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, the FBI, through our Joint Terrorism Task Force. I want to thank again the brave members of NYPD who ran toward the danger without hesitation and quickly apprehended the suspects. Let's be joined right now by Politico's Jason Bieferman. Jason, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. Jessica Tisch saying these are improvised explosive devices. What more can you tell us about this investigation?
There were 2 men who showed up as counter-protesters to a protest outside of Gracie Mansion where the mayor resides with his wife. So there was a protest that was an anti-Islamic protest. And then you saw other counter-protesters showing up saying they were anti-Nazi protesters. And 2 individuals presumably with this group of counter protesters, threw Gatorade bottles wrapped in tape and explosive materials and threw them at these so-called anti-Islamic protesters. And at first, police weren't sure, was this a hoax bomb? Was this a smoking device? But no, it appears that these are full-fledged improvised explosive devices. And it's really a scary sight. It's the first instance of, potential violence against the mayor of New York City.
Yeah, obviously concerning to say the least, is you have to assume that it potentially is an explosive device and then rule it out. But they're saying this isn't a hoax. This isn't a smoke bomb. I also want to put up here new reporting from Fox's Bill Mallusion about exactly.
They're attacking the mayor.
He's saying per 3 law enforcement sources.
Wait a minute. You see how the media gets this twisted? That's not what I saw. The guy ran up. He got on top of someone's shoulder and threw the whatever it was. It was wrapped up in black tape. It had a fuse, and he screamed out "Allah Akbar," and then he ran away. And then the police chased him down and caught up to him. And as they were arresting him, he was screaming "Allah Akbar." So, and I did see that video earlier, and I can bring it up. Don't play with me. I come with receipts. But there's so much going on, so much, and I'm happy I came on tonight. Because I was like, I want to really catch up with all this with you guys, and for others that do watch, thank you. I appreciate you guys so much. But everything happens for a reason. And let me set these videos up real quick, because there's like I said, there's so much scenes going on, and it's getting futuristic. Okay. It's getting very futuristic. What's happening in New York? That's crazy. What's going on in New York with the terrorists, because that's what they are. You know what? Let me see if I can find that video. Give me 1 second. I'm doing everything from my mouse. I'm running a whole show just with this. A whole show just with my mouse. And that's it. This is how I'm controlling the whole show. So I give myself a pat in the back. But holy shit, it's a lot of work. But let me see if I can find this video, because it showed the individuals, especially the I don't know. I know Benny Johnson came out with we could set up the Benny Johnson one, but I saw it wasn't the Benny. It was this guy here. Give me 1 second. The Daily Discourse with Arturo. Okay, so let me set this up real quick, and we're gonna watch this after the New York stuff. So we got 2 videos on the New York, and then I'm gonna set these 2 up. I'm gonna do it right now, so that way. And all credits to the Daily Discourse. I mean, with Arturo, it's his name, Arturo. But let me set this up. Computer's running a little crazy slow tonight for some reason. I think there's cyber war going on right now. They're just not letting us know. To tell you the truth, they don't want us to really know the truth. That's all I can say. You know, they don't really want us to know the truth. And and to be honest with you, you know, Mike, come on, this fucking YouTube. What the fuck? Ever since YouTube changed their format, it's just been garbage. It's like you're trying to pause the video and won't pause until like 3 seconds, 5 seconds later. It's like, what the fuck? And then when you, especially on the computer, it's just, it's horrible. But I don't edit my shows. This is what you see is what you get. Okay, so we can add this one to what's going on in New York. And then I got the video. Okay, hopefully Benny shows that video too. We're gonna see it back to back on Benny. So it's a good long show tonight. Not too long because I do want to go to bed early. Because this time change, you gotta get not totally used to it. Not used to the time change. It's, you know, we went up an hour forward, so make sure all your clocks are changed. The phones, you don't have to worry about it because it automatically, you know, it changes. But you're like your microwave or your little wall clocks and anywhere you have like your watch, you gotta change the dial and move it forward an hour. So it's darker in the morning, which for me I kind of like because my eyes are sensitive and I do wake up early in the morning. And yeah, I kind of like this time change. I don't like when we fall back. I hate fall back. That's the time that I hate because I feel like everything drags. Now I feel like everything goes forward. You know, spring forward. You're doing shit, getting things done. I feel like, but fall back, I really don't like it. That's the only time I hate the time change. Okay, which is this one? This one. Okay, so let's go ahead and set this up because like there's a problem with the audio again, so I had to like refix this. And I got both of my phones here with me because news is breaking, like, and I got both of them here, so I'm just monitoring as much as I can. Okay, this is it. Here we go. Let me first set up my settings here, and then let's watch.
The two suspects arrested, NYPD throwing an IED after yelling Allah Akbar in protest in New York City yesterday. Both believed to be U.S. citizens. They're in custody. NYPD confirms it was a real improvised explosive device. Do we know any more about who these suspects are? You heard there Bill Malugin saying they are U.S. citizens. Any more details?
Yeah, Bill's reporting really lines up with what the New York Post is reporting as well, which is that two of these individuals admitted to cops that they watch ISIS videos. I myself have not been able to confirm that, but it appears that these are two kind of, you know, potentially, of course, and allegedly homegrown, potentially terrorists or ISIS sympathizers. It appears these were full-on, potentially terrorists. And it's, you know, a lot more details are going to come out, but this was no joke. These are real explosives being thrown at anti-Mamdani protesters.
What kind of charges could these individuals face? Because they're looking into this motivation, potentially this kind of terrorism impact or aspect of what's going on with this improvised explosive device. Looking at.
I'm sure we're going to see a lot more come out, and I anticipate that the FBI and the feds are going to get involved. For now, they are in custody. There were other individuals who were arrested. One individual was arrested for pepper spraying those anti-Mamdani protesters, but I wouldn't be surprised if they really throw the book at these people. You know, this is a real, obviously can't get more serious than this.
Yeah, obviously they say that it could have caused harm, serious harm, or death. We know Zoran Mamdani has been in office a short time, just 2 months since being inaugurated there back in January. Have we seen protests like this before outside of Gracie Mansion? Because I remember talking about a story where it was of note that he was going to move into Gracie Mansion. Have we heard and have seen protests out there regularly?
Nothing like this. And, Gracie Mansion is way far away from City Hall. It's in a quiet residential neighborhood. So this is a lot of commotion for that area of Manhattan. And it's interesting because Mamdani, he's the first Muslim mayor to be elected in New York City. And he himself had bomb threats waged against him when he was running for mayor. He had a lot of security on him. I think the sense was that there was a greater threat, that there could be, something horrible or a violent attack against Mamdani. But in this instance, preliminary information shows it was the people protesting against the anti-Mamdani protesters that were potentially the violent ones and, throwing what looks like IEDs.
Yeah, obviously very serious, and this protest turned violent very quickly. You noted kind of the location of it. I also want to put up on social media here from Zoran Mamdani himself, saying yesterday the white supremacist Jake Lang organized a protest outside, rooted it in bigotry and racism. Such hate has no place in New York City. It's an affront to our city's values. The unity that defines who we are followed was even more disturbing. Have we heard or will we hear upcoming this week from Zoran Mamdani? Because I bet there's a lot of reporters that have questions about what was going on there, some of his personal reaction.
No doubt the mayor's going to want to take questions on this and want to show people that he is presiding over the city and he cares no matter what side it comes from when there's a potential violent terroristic threat. But what's interesting about that statement is he started it by condemning these so-called anti-Islamic protesters and then got into, but what was even worse were these counter protesters that were throwing these explosive devices. So Mamdani, he's definitely going to take questions. This is another big test for him. He's new, he's green on the job, and he wants to show that he is going to stand up for New York, especially a place where we had, the 9/11 attacks, 26 years ago or 25.
Yeah, obviously kind of taking us back to there. And so many people in that city remember those exact moments. What can we see in terms of security around Zoran Mamdani and Gracie Mansion moving forward? Is New York City's finest, are they going to get involved? How does that work?
Definitely, there's New York City is, of course, a target for terror attacks. And with the war in Iran, the NYPD has already stepped up patrols and surveillance of synagogues, mosques, all sorts of places. But I think, with this, people are going to be on even higher alert. And perchance or possibly like these protesters might have been emboldened by what was going on in the Middle East. We don't know that yet. But we're already on heightened alert here in New York City. So I think that this is even more reason they're not going to tamp down those patrols at all.
We've seen on the campaign trail leading up to his election as New York City mayor, he was out there amongst the people in so many different boroughs, so many different times. Do you think that will change because of this? Do you think he has kind of continued the theme following the campaign into his mayor tenure as mayor? Do you think that will be less so now that following this incident?
I don't think so. And like I said, these alleged terrorists, they were throwing it at the anti-Mamdani protesters. But of course, there's always a risk and there's always a threat to the mayor. But he walks around with security detail constantly. There's a chase car following him. He always has, the NYPD has a special security detail for the mayor, and he's able to, move throughout the city, and he's very well protected. So I do not anticipate he's going to limit his travels or his events whatsoever.
How has Mamdani been able to balance this? Because obviously being sworn in there as mayor, there's been some controversy over some of his families on social media. How has he balanced this in such a diverse city? Because we've seen protests following the war in Israel. We've seen so many different protests around various global events taking place. How has he kind of balanced all of these world events to date as mayor?
I think this is going to be another test because a lot of people on the right have called him a jihadist mayor. He says that's a racist term, but he also embraced calls for Palestinian freedom or anti-Israel calls, including the phrase "globalize the Intifada," which many people see as a call to kill Jews around the world. So if he's presiding as mayor over a city where we're seeing a potential terrorist attack, that's going to be a big question. How hard is the mayor going to identify this as potentially Islamic terror? Now, I want to be clear, we don't know everything, but we saw, your colleague Ben at Fox News, we saw what the New York Post said. It's looking like these are potentially Islamically motivated terrorists, and we have the first Muslim mayor. Is he going to clearly state that this was a problem, this was Islamic terrorism? We're going to find out.
Yeah, we will find out. Any other questions that potentially you hope Zohran Mamdani answers? Any questions that you hope New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch? What other questions do you have on your mind?
I think I was mentioning that statement earlier, how he began, condemning the anti-Mamdani or anti-Islamic protesters, that individual Jake Lang. He brought a goat outside Gracie Mansion as some sort of protest gimmick. It's going to be interesting the degree to which the mayor condemns this guy, Jake Lang, and then also condemns these real terrorists. How much weight is he going to be putting on those two issues when he's talking about this incident? I'm sure he'll be talking about it all week, but is he going to focus? Is he going to blame these right-wing protesters for inciting this? Or is he going to focus on, what was the real violent threat? It will be interesting, and it's a political calculation he has to make.
Yeah, it's so very true. And obviously protesting here in the United States, obviously right there entrenched in the First Amendment. So we'll see what comes of this very interesting developing story there out of New York City. Jason, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. You're on Live Now.
Thank you.
All right, keep it moving.
The devices, which were a bit smaller than a football, appear to be a jar wrapped in black tape, importantly, with nuts, bolts, and screws, along with a hobby fuse that could be lit. A counter-protester, identified as Amir Balat, an 18-year-old man, lit and threw an ignited device toward the protest area, landing in the crosswalk of East 87th Street and East End Avenue. Witnesses reported seeing flames and smoke as it traveled through the air before it struck a barrier and extinguished itself a few feet from police officers. Mr. Balat then ran southbound on East End Avenue toward 86th Street and gets a second device from a man tentatively ID'd as Ibrahim Nick, 19 years old. Mr. Balat lights the device and starts running with it. He then drops the device on the west side of East End Avenue between East 86th and East 87th Streets. Officers immediately secured the area and they took both men into custody. At this time, we do not yet know whether the devices were functional improvised explosive devices or hoax devices, because we don't yet know if there was energetic material contained in them.
What?
In total.
Okay, this dumb broad. Are you kidding me? If you're saying there were nuts, bolts, and screws in it, and it was wrapped up, and it was lit and thrown, that's still an act of terrorism. So why are you trying to say, oh, we don't know? Bitch, you know. You just don't want to tell the people. Because you're in New York, you're a Democrat. You can't say the truth, because the truth somehow it's like kryptonite to fucking the Democrats these days. You can't say the truth, because if you do, you're gonna fucking die. Oh no, kryptonite. Hey, look, even my phone's like, yep. All right, let's
6 arrests were made today in connection with the events. Those arrests include the 2 individuals responsible for handling and deploying the devices, the individual who used pepper spray earlier in the protest, and additional arrests related to disorderly conduct and obstructing traffic.
What? Let's keep it moving. Benny Johnson.
NYPD, stop right there, freeze. Stay back.
Yeah, it's just like NYPD. They don't fucking do
These are the
shit.
kind of moments where you hate to be right. On the onset of the Iran war, we noted that America would become very, very dangerous because of a suicidal policy of bringing our enemies here, giving them safe harbor and welfare, and then allowing them to hate us here at home. You can hate us 5,000, 6,000 miles away. I don't care. Most of the world does. But you shouldn't be allowed to hate us from Minneapolis or Dallas or New York while on welfare. You shouldn't be allowed to hate us when you can throw bombs at us, which is exactly what happened when 2 Muslims threw bombs at protesters outside of the home of New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. 6 arrested after explosive devices thrown at Gracie Mansion protest. Remember, they threw them not at Gracie Mansion, they threw them at the protesters. Send people running for cover. 2 Muslims threw homemade bombs filled. Look, you can see here. They're lit. They're filled with nails and screws.
What a picture, right?
They're intended to
Cameraman never
the anti-Islam
huh?
protesters.
Get the perfect
By the way,
picture.
this is America. Of course you can. And
Yeah, these perfect
you
pictures.
have a right to have an anti-Islam protest, obviously.
I'm just
Jake
pointing out
Lang
the obvious.
is a quite famous, I just call him a conservative, an activist, right, who protests Islam. And he staged an anti-Islam protest,
in New
which
York.
is
That's not even
legal
going to New York. Fuck New
and
York.
allowed in our
Especially
country.
New York City.
And we
I
don't
mean,
have
New York,
a country
the
if
state,
you can do that.
it's still
You're
not
not allowed
safe.
to protest this religion that is antithetical, frankly, with our Constitution and Western civilization. Do we have a country, or are we part of a caliphate? Have we been completely conquered? Well, it seems like we've been completely conquered because these guys who decided to protest Islam got homemade nail bombs thrown at them. You can see here 6 people in custody after homemade explosive devices tossed outside of the Gracie Mansion, the mayor's mansion, Saturday in an anti-Muslim protest. Dozens of demonstrators and counter-protest fled as smoke began to billow from the devices that appeared to have a lit fuse wrapped in duct tape. There were no injuries, thank God. You can see right here, clear as day. Look at that.
Wow.
That is a straight up terrorist bomb being thrown.
Imagine if that would have
A
exploded
second device was also seen
and killed people.
The devices were glass jars wrapped in electrical tape containing bolts, screws, nuts, featuring a fuse that could be lit. The NYPD says the investigation is whether the homemade devices were functional. Of course they were functional if they contained any explosive material. Oh, okay. I'm so glad you're investigating that. And I hope Alan Bragg lets them off with community service if they don't contain explosive material. I always speak for the police running towards the danger with everybody else who runs away. Let me be clear what happened today. Officers, many of whom were with me, ran towards a man carrying a suspicious device. They put the safety of others in their sworn duty to protect the law. I am grateful. There are no injuries today. We thank our police officers. Okay, got it. So yeah, people are calling it a grenade. Crazy scenes. You're gonna watch things deteriorate. The scenes also from the ground. Crazy. You can see here. Yeah, the fuse. Here are the that tracks. That tracks. This is one of the bomb throwers. Yep, that's about right. Goodness gracious. What a nightmare. Both suspects after attempted bomb attack outside of Gracie Mansion. You can see, look at this. Look at this. There's the bomb. Look at the police officers.
Wow.
Look at these officers. So the fact that it's a black police officer here, they tried to commit terrorism against a black police officer. This is the left. This is what they're defending. This is what Democrats are defending here.
Wow.
Look at that. Bomb sends people running for cover. Zohran should really consider installing checkpoints and roadblocks to make sure these jihadists cannot get this close with this bomb again. Well, they're his people, okay? Like, what are you talking about? Jihadi throws nail bomb at protesters. They're peaceful protesters, by the way. It's peaceful protesters. You can see here. And you can actually watch the event happen here. They're just there you go. They're protesting, and then you can see the bomb gets thrown at them in 4K. It wasn't just smoke bombs. NYPD identified 2 suspects after the bomb attack. The device was a jar with nuts, bolts, screws, and shrapnel designed to kill. This is what happens in a city that tolerates extremism. Look at that. The left-wing counter-protester threw a large smoke bomb at Gracie Mansion. Lucky to be alive based on these photos. Look at that. There he is. He's like running towards the cops with a smoke bomb. You know, black cops. I'm not trying to make that an issue. I'm just saying the left always does. So, yeah. Here's the goodness gracious. You can see the people running away from the homemade bomb.
One here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
There you can see the actual.
This nigga threw a bomb, bro. Yo, he threw a bomb. Yo, did he throw a bomb, bro? Nice. That shit stinks.
He said nice.
Yo, did he
That's
just throw
sick.
a Allah Akbar bomb, bro? Yo, that shit stinks. You know damn well that wasn't me, though. That was crazy. He threw an Allah Akbar cocktail at y'all. That was some wild shit, bro.
Incredible. You can actually see here in the video the dude just come running up and throw the bomb and then run away. What a coward. What an absolute coward.
If that would have exploded
in this country
and killed people, what would be the story right
makes my
now?
heart sick. It's what we've let in here.
That's why
Muslim terrorists threw a nail bomb. 2 arrested. Glass jar. Detonator. This is your nation now. This is your nation now. Here we go. They're already here. Keep your head on a swivel. There you go. Here's the other bomb thrower. Funny how they haven't released the names. Too many Palestinians in New York, guys, every effing time. You can see right here. I mean, it was all captured on 4K. Look at this. They thought they were going to be real bad.
That's
They
crazy.
thought they were going to be real G's.
That's really
The enemy is
crazy.
here. That's right. It's all captured at 4K. Close
They don't care. And those are
the
the
bomb almost
ones.
detonated
There's a
anywhere
lot of
else.
them here.
We would all have heard about it for
All of
weeks.
them in the Northeast.
But because it was thrown at a group of Republicans, it's being pushed under the rug.
Texas,
Muslims
Minnesota,
throw a nail bomb.
Michigan, they're all over.
Black New York City police officers. Jeez.
No one's safe.
Because that's where the bomb actually landed.
Look at that.
Is going to be any outrage over this? Of course not. Doesn't fit the message. But that's why you should subscribe to our channel. Because we're the only ones who will talk about this stuff, and it could save your life. Okay.
Me too. What are you talking about, Benny? Look at the police officers here. Look at this one looking down at. If this would have exploded while these officers are standing here, this would have killed them. Whatever shrapnels that are in here. I heard there was screws, bolts, and nails inside of this. If that would have exploded and penetrated, all these officers would have probably been dead right now. And then what would be the story? You know, it's just getting crazy. Let's keep it moving. Okay.
Stand up, let's go.
Stand up. Everybody heads down. Stand up. Stay down. Stand up. Everybody just stay down, okay?
Hands up. You might have seen these terrifying videos from Southwest Flight 2094 from Nashville to Fort Lauderdale yesterday. Had to be diverted because of what Southwest is calling a possible security matter into Atlanta. Landed safely there. That customer was taken off the plane, and then all the passengers were moved to another plane and landed in Fort Lauderdale around 3:30 this morning. Southwest did send our newsroom a statement this morning confirming this information, saying that the customer in question was removed by Atlanta police. We reached out to the Atlanta Police Department, who said they worked with federal partners on this incident. They also say to reach out to the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security for more information.
Now, I don't know if you have caught this on the news. It's not really been talked about at all. I mean, I know we have the war going on and several other things, but I thought I would bring this up because it was popping up on my feed and I really didn't hear much about it at all. Like if it wasn't for TikTok, I would have never seen this. Now, I'm going to play you a few clips of like different people's perspective. And I think what's gotten a lot of people really worried is because they have never seen the hands up, heads down. And then you seem like some type of, I don't know if is that military, Homeland Security. I don't know who that is that came in and got this guy. But generally, if somebody's causing a disruption on the plane, they're not coming in like that. It's usually police that come in. But this clearly was some type of military apparatus, at least from what I can see. Now, this flight took off from Nashville and it was supposed to go to Fort Lauderdale, but obviously they had to stop in Atlanta. And like she said, they got on a new plane. And of course, they're not really giving us much information, just like pretty much everything else going on in the world. But I actually found one of the people who posted the original clips, and she's actually given her story about what happened on this flight. So we're going to play that as well.
At this time, we need everybody to have their heads down and hands up. Heads down, hands up. Heads down, hands up. Heads down, hands up. I need to see everyone's hands. Heads down, hands up. Heads down, hands up. Heads down. Heads down.
The fuck? Okay, man. Okay. The police are getting the whoever military or whatever.
Stand up, let's go. Stand up, everybody, heads down. Stand up, heads down. Stand up.
Okay.
Heads down, heads down. Heads down.
You imagine you're on a fucking plane and they tell you heads down, hands up. Heads down, fuck you. I have a broken neck. I ain't putting no fucking head down.
Stand up. I got you. Move it. Move it. Keep your heads down. Keep your heads down.
I say, bitch, I got a broken neck. I ain't gonna fucking put my head down. Go fuck yourself. I would just told her just like that.
Hands up. Heads down. Hands up. Heads down. Hands
I ain't gonna put my head down.
All right, so I'm going to read this because I'm not going to play the whole thing of her clip because it's pretty much the same thing, but she is one of the ones that's actually talking about what happened. But it says Southwest Airlines Flight 2094, one of the scariest moments of my life. The SWAT team. So it was the SWAT team. Well, she's assuming it's a SWAT. I don't know. Maybe that's a SWAT. I thought SWAT wears black, but they're in brown. I mean, I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments. The SWAT team arrested someone at gunpoint after we had an emergency landing because there were bomb threats on the plane. So this wasn't fighting. This wasn't disruption. This wasn't being rude to the stewardess. We are seeing now bomb threats being made on planes. It's like we're back in 2001.
Yeah.
Okay. And so now with the war escalating, there is a lot coming out, guys. Even with the, I told you about the desalination. Now Iran says there's no holds bar anymore because they're saying what Israel has done recently with their oil and several other things that they are hitting schools. that they are now going to be targeting, and even put out a video of like they're going to be going after the desalination plants in over in Israel. But there's a lot going on, guys, so I don't want to misspeak right now, but I just thought I would bring that up because we are going to see an escalation of these things that happen here on our actually here in America. We are going to see this growing more and more because there is no end in sight for this war. I have watched every single expert I could find that is not some mainstream media talking head, right? Someone who's just going to parrot and gaslight us with whatever propaganda, but actually listening to even listen to a former military general and several other people who are experts in this. People who actually have been talking about this for years on what could possibly, I guess, like war games and seeing what will play out. And almost everyone is saying that this is going to escalate into World War III. Like there's no possible way to end this at this point, just because of how bad the first few days have already gotten. So I just want to put that out there that we need to have our eyes and ears open. But we know that these times are supposed to be like this, guys. There is no worry, right? Because the world is supposed to continue to get worse. The Bible makes this very, very clear. There is no peace on earth without Jesus Christ. Anyone claiming peace or that we're going to have peace and all this, that is fake. That is false. That is anti-Christ. There is no lasting peace without Jesus Christ. And to want that or to claim it is anti-Christ. It is. So with these things happening, we are told to endure to the end. Okay, that our redemption, to look up, our redemption draws nigh. And I want to encourage you with that. With things like this happening, I'm just doing this. I'm showing it to make you aware of what's happening, but I don't want it to put fear in your heart, especially for those of us who believe in Jesus Christ, because we don't have anything to fear. This was always the plan. God always knew how these governments would move. It was already calculated. It was prophesied all throughout the Bible. And we are getting to the place where Jesus will be returning on the clouds, right? And those of us who believe in Jesus Christ will be raptured up, and then starts the worst time in humanity they have ever seen, the 7-year tribulation, and especially the last 3.5 years. It is going to be, and I don't mean just wars. I mean 200 million of Satan's hell riders coming out of hell. I am talking about the 4 fallen angels that are locked up under the Euphrates that is rapidly drying up, because that's another sign when the Euphrates dries up. I think I probably need to do maybe I'll do a whole video today of a lot of different signs and wonders, right?
And the grasshoppers
rapidly going down.
that were
They are going to
Saudi
kill
Arabia. I
a
think it was
third of the entire world.
Sahara Desert.
Guys, you do not want to be here for that. So if you do not, sorry, there's someone
Like the
having
grasshoppers
fun
were going
downstairs.
crazy.
If you do not believe in Jesus Christ, I'm telling you now, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Are you not seeing the signs? Outside of the mark of the beast technology I've shown you, digital ID, oil right now has spiked. I think it's 105 a barrel. People are saying it's going to go to 175 and possibly higher. Like we're going to see famines. We're going to see water shortages. And all of this is starting to roll out right as we speak. And even there is a lot coming out about a hospital, a military hospital over in Germany. And they are now seeking blood, right? And they have shut down their webcams, as well as they have closed the labor and delivery ward, right? This is where I believe it's just military personnel who actually deliver their wives deliver there. They have shut that down, and they're not telling anybody why. They say to prepare, we need to prepare it for soldiers, but that doesn't make any sense if there's no soldiers actually coming in. I am hearing numbers, and again, I have nothing official. Of course, they haven't told us this. I'm hearing numbers over 1,000 of our servicemen and women who have been already killed. I cannot confirm that, guys, but there is one thing is clear. There is a complete blackout on the media right now. Complete blackout on the media, hands down, without a question. We are not getting up-to-date information. They are hiding a lot of things, and people are having their accounts deactivated, taken away, or censored over on X especially, but and of course on TikTok. So understand, you may not hear all the things now. You may think it's hyperbolic, but I am telling you, it's going to come out. The truth always is going to come out. It's going to be revealed. And I just want to prepare you to not be shocked, because we know these things are supposed to happen. Not that we want them to, but this was always part of God's plan. Now, I'm gonna play a little bit of this video. It's about 7 minutes long, so maybe I'll speed it up just so it doesn't take so long to get through it.
Here's what happened on flight 2094 from Nashville to Fort Lauderdale from a perspective of someone who's on the plane. Our flight was at 7 and we were supposed to land in Fort Lauderdale at about like a little after 9. And about 30-45 minutes into the flight, we noticed some things were happening, and the flight attendants were kept running back and forth down the aisles, holding phones, and this one guy kept getting up a lot, and I was thinking like his wife was having some medical problems or something, and I didn't notice he got up like 4 times. And then they said that the first thing they said over the intercom was, we're going to have an emergency landing. They didn't tell us where, so no one knew where we were going, and we didn't have internet. We couldn't look until we landed. We found out we were in Atlanta. We were in the middle of the runway, and we couldn't even see the airport. We were just in the middle of nowhere, and we still had no clue what was going on. We sat on that plane for about like an hour and 45 minutes with no information. It was hot. Occasionally they came over the intercom and they literally did not say anything. Like, we just kept seeing the flight attendants running back and forth. This one guy, he kept getting up and still thinking it was medical, but we were sitting there for an hour and a half, and I was like, surely they would have had someone come get someone if someone was hurt or something. People were complaining a lot. There was a baby on the plane, and the parents were really like mad, of course, because it was hot. Like, everyone was fighting, everyone was mad, and literally like 10 minutes later, just the next thing you know, the SWAT team is on the plane and they're yelling hands up, hands up, heads down, over and over again. And that lasted for like 5 minutes. It was longer than the video I posted, and that was terrifying. Like, there were like 3 rows in front of us, the person they arrested, and there was like, 5 armed like SWAT teams in like full gear, not just like a normal police uniform. They had their huge guns. I don't know anything about guns, but they were huge, and it was very scary. And they were just like pointing them at like everyone. They're walking on a plane with guns. It's like, of course, people are like thinking like, what if they shoot someone? That was like so scary. After they arrested him, like everyone was worked up. Like, kids were freaking out. I was freaking out, and we sat on the plane for like another hour and a half. Like, there was just police cars everywhere outside. There was the bomb squad, canines. Like, they told us all, like, we're gonna have to have you leave your stuff in here, and we're gonna have the canine come search it. We did end up taking our stuff outside and the canine searching it out there, but it was very slow. They were leaving the plane like in groups of like 4 and lining them up, and we had a bunch of buses there, and yeah. So then I'll post a clip, but we were standing like, I don't know what it's called, like a cover getting off the plane, and for a while, and you can just see canines going back and forth and bags lined up, and they take us in a line, and we have to have our bags sniffed, and that took forever. Like, all this we were on the runway in the middle of the nowhere for like a good 4 hours, and we finally made it onto the bus, but that wasn't any better because it was hot, and we had to stand there for like an hour and a half while they were like, we can't let you leave the scene, and it was so late, and everyone was just annoyed and so confused because they still haven't told us really what was happening. When we got on the bus, that's when people started talking, and we kind of started putting the thoughts together about what happened. And allegedly, but pretty sure this is right, the person next to the guy who was arrested, the guy who was arrested brought a huge bag onto the plane, which I don't know, I guess is a little weird. And people were asking like, hey, what's in your bag? He wasn't like wanting to say it, and it wouldn't fit under the seat in front of him because it was a carry-on. And he was really mad when the flight attendants took his bag, and he was just like getting agitated at everyone. And the person next to him saw him texting someone like 911, 911, which like don't do that on a plane. And he was just, I don't know exactly what the text said, but I do know that it did say something about 911. But the guy next to him took a picture of his text and showed it to the flight attendant, and that's when all the running around was happening. That's when that guy kept getting up and showing, like, I saw them running around with phones in the air. Southwest didn't really tell us any of this. We kind of had to like ask everyone, and a lot of people had things to say about him and not saying he was mad, and it was a real threat. Like, he was texting someone, and the whole thing about the precautions, like about searching our bags and all that, I think was in case there was like someone else with him on the plane. And it's really scary. When they arrested him, he was like no reaction, like, which it was really annoying that we had to sit with him for an hour and a half, like not knowing what's going on. But he probably knew. But like, if he got mad, like I have no clue what would have happened. Like, it's just like terrifying. There are things out about this being like weather related, but that is not true. Like, the Southwest really isn't like giving much information, but there's a lot more about this that I still don't even know. But there was a lot of talk on the buses, and because we were standing there for like 2 hours, a lot of things they said they were going to do that they never did. They said they were going to give us water and food and get us out of there. But it's okay. It's not their fault. But it was really annoying not being filled in. And just like the first thing we knew was when the first time we found out someone on dangerous on the plane was when the SWAT team came up with guns pointed at us. Then we went and sat in the airport for another like hour and a half, and finally they got us another plane, and we made it to Fort Lauderdale at about 4 in the morning. We got to our hotel like 4:30. It was the longest night, though. We were supposed to have landed at a little after 9. Yeah, it was insane.
Okay, so that is the story. And then, of course, like you said, they're blaming it on weather and all these other things, or trying to, and they're not giving people any information. The fact that they sat on that plane with this man after this bomb threat was discovered for an hour and a half is absolutely insane. Can you imagine if that was you? Like, guys, like, you have to understand, deception is everywhere. Deception is everywhere. And this is why you have to be in tune with the Spirit, with the Holy Spirit, because you have got to have discerning eyes and discerning ears. There is so much out here, even me, myself. I can't recognize something's AI. I have had to double and triple check and make sure, because sometimes Grok will tell me, no, this is real. And then I say, okay, then I read through the comments just to make sure. And then someone will post it, no, this is from 2025. This is from 2024. Then I asked Grok, I said, you said this was real. And he's like, oh, my fault. You're right. And so we are living in those times where we're not going to know reality. And I think the best way for us to, at least get some of what the truth is to hear from real people like this young lady here, so that we can, inform each other, build community, whether it's online or in person. But these are the days ahead, and expect more, media blackouts, more information being hidden from us, lies coming out, us being gaslit about the truth. Right? I did that video about the pilot the other day, but sources, they still have not given any more clarification of, and they have not addressed the crash. And I am seeing reports, okay, that don't come from the US. I'm seeing reports of a lot of our servicemen, men and women, who have died or are injured. And I'm waiting for confirmation of a lot of things that people say is a hoax, or it's fake, or it's debunked by the same guys. You don't trust the government, but yet, and you don't trust the media, but yet you trust what they say. Like really, really, like, how does that work? How is that going to work? And I want to show you guys, before we get out of here, I want to show you my new redacted merch. Guys, you guys know I have the Everything is Fine, Trust Your Government. I have the redacted government.
She's gonna be selling her stuff at the end, because that's the end of her show there. So let's keep it moving, because we got more to watch. This is at the airport. There was, I believe, a threat made at Kansas City Airport. Kansas City International Airport evacuates over threat. They were hit with a threat. They had to evacuate the airport immediately. Most likely was the call that there was probably some kind of device somewhere in the airport. So they decided to evacuate the whole airport. Wow, look at this. You imagine you're fucking trying to take a flight, right? And like me, I'm disabled, right? I have a broken neck, my spine is fucked up, I don't walk good, and I gotta go through this shit because some motherfucker hit a threat. You know how, like, not good that is for a lot of people, especially those that are disabled and handicapped. They can't really go down the stairs like that. They can't really, like, do as much as an able-bodied person. Like, this is wild. This is happening, and nobody's paying attention. I had 5 people watching earlier. Thank you for the other 3 that were watching, but they're missing out on a lot of good information that I put on here. Imagine you have to walk through this shit. Picture yourself at the fucking airport, and you gotta go out of the airport to get re-screened by TSA. Because that's what's gonna happen to all these people. They have to get all re-screened. They're all gonna, like, you have disabled people that have to get on planes. I feel bad. This is our reality, right? This is where we're at today. This is where we're at in America. And we're at war. And this is only going to continue. This is not going to get any better. this is just a taste of what's going to be happening. Let's keep it moving on to Benny Johnson.
What is a discombobulator?
I don't know the specific secret weapon system Trump's talking about. I know that they have a lot of exotic weapons. I could go through some of the theoretical stuff and what we know has been developed over the decades. The information I have on those weapon systems is old, so you can imagine they're much more advanced. But they have kind of a Glock system that's associated with manipulating the time-space field between dimensions. That going back to the first experiments with it with the Germans and then the U.S., that everybody around it really gets sick. It's like the Havana syndrome on steroids. Then there are classic type high-powered sonic weapons that can also make people very, very nauseous. But when you hear the term discombobulate, that means almost like reality's not there. And so this is real sci-fi weaponry. But we're told hydrogen bombs is the most advanced thing. But those were around in the 50s, theoretically in the 1890s. Max Planck created the theoretical equations for atomic bombs and then hydrogen bombs. And so the technologies are 30 to 50 years, depending on what group of them advanced. And obviously it's very secretive. They had in the early 70s, the B-2 bomber deployed. They didn't declassify it partially until the late 80s. And that, I'm told, is about 5 generations back from what the U.S. military actually has.
Many people have wondered whether the UFO files are kept secret because the UFO technology is simply military technology that's being tested on our people or domestically, and that the federal government has the ability to manipulate time and space. And I say that, Alex, because they straight up, and that's not what this interview is about, but I hope you don't mind this little side quest here. They said that in this astonishing document. Alex, could you grab it? The principal who's in charge of science and technology for the administration, Dr. Alex Krasios is his name. Sounds like straight out Central Casting. He says, no, we have the ability to manipulate time and space with our military tech. What does that mean, Alex? I mean, you just talked about the discombobulator changing reality. We heard from the Venezuelan security guards that they were incapable of even standing when hit with this thing, vomiting blood out of their mouths, blood out of their ears and nose. What I mean, did we use some space age shit on these guys?
Well, there are all sorts of systems. I mean, there are particle beams that you can just hit a building with and it just basically disintegrates. There are, and these are just things we know theoretically that they did develop, and then the rest is classified. So it just goes on and on. And then there's so many civilian uses for these things. I mean, we've had free energy for at least 30 years. It's seen as a disruptive technology, so it's been suppressed. And with Trump, you see the beginning of the rolling out of this, which is great to secure American dominance, but also great for the economy. With all this debt and the rest of it, new innovations being rolled out like this aren't going to be disruptive. It's what's going to save us if it can be deployed in a peaceful way. I mean, imagine what free energy will do. But you see Trump killing the carbon taxes, the Paris Accord that Lord Monk.
Hey, hold on. I have to just interrupt because something just crossed my mind. Like, it was just really strong. And I believe this is going to happen. The draft is probably going to come back. So a lot of these young, dumb individuals that are out there wreaking havoc, I would start being good and not being too much of a problem, because they will ship your ass to war and they'll put you front line, and you're going to have to fight for the country and then come back, and then you're going to have more respect for the country if you do come back. This is going to be a wild experience we're living through right now. We're making history right now as we speak every day. Yes, we wake up and we're safe and we go do our daily things and without a care in the world, right? But the world is going fucking crazy. Okay? Now, it's not for us to panic, but it's for us to be concerned, right? Because this is only going to escalate. And if it gets worse, if Iran does launch like kind of maybe nuclear weapon, maybe a you know, some kind of nuclear weapon, things are going to be fucking very different. The world is going to change rapid, because once they do that, hands on, like, this is World War III. The US has so many nuclear weapons. Scary. You know, Israel does have an atomic weapon. So they wouldn't hesitate to use it against Iran and their military. Problem is that innocent people are going to die. A lot of innocent people are going to die. So this is going to be it's going to have to be coordinated. Countries already lined up. They already know whose sides they're on. And it seems like a lot of them are lined up with the United States and Israel. And if Iran wants to claim stupidity by saying that, oh yeah, Russia is with us, they're going to back us. Are we witnessing World War III just developing right before our eyes and we're not even fucking paying attention? A lot of people are not paying attention. That's why I feel like these devices made a lot of people fucking brain dead. Made them more stupider, if that's possible. You know, I feel like this wasn't helpful at all. I feel like the internet, everything has just been it's a big negative, especially to humanity. And I feel like it's not going to get any better. It's going to be the great war of all wars. There is a comet that's supposed to come very, very close to the sun. And that's supposed to happen around April 4th. Okay. Something big is about to happen. And they're going to need a lot of people for it. Because it's the war of all wars. You know, it's just the moment where Jesus pops up and says, I've been here all the time. I've been here. Been watching. You know, a lot of shit going on. And it's concerning. I hear the static. I hear a lot of like different pitch sounds all around me. So I'm like just hearing a lot of buzzing sounds. I don't know if people go through that, but I've been going through that ever since I got my injuries, especially getting hit over the head, having a traumatic brain injury. But I've been hearing a lot of different like pitches of sounds. You know, it's like you go. It's like, but it's a buzzing sound like that, and it goes like high pitch, low pitch, high pitch, low pitch, high, low, and then high, low. That's how it's like sounds in my head. But let's continue on with the Benny Johnson and Alex Jones, and then we'll continue with more of what's going on in this crazy, whatever you want to call it. I'm calling it like the Great War of all wars.
Analysis, and I've seen other analyses that are similar, would kill about 2 billion people over a decade if they cut basically half the energy of the food. And that was the plan of the Great Reset. So Trump killing that alone, the globalists weren't just going to give us the free energy. They weren't just going to block that. They were going to take away the old system as well. And so Trump is keeping the old system in place as a bridge to the new. Elon Musk has talked about that. And so this is a great, great thing President Trump's done. In fact, that's why I'm not black-pilled. I mean, I wish they'd do more on Epstein. I wish they'd do more on arrest, more on indictments of the bad guys. But at the end of the day, the globalists are being made irrelevant. We just had the head CEO of the World Economic Forum in the email saying, yes, we're setting up an alternate world government through the Trilateral Commission that Epstein was on, and we're going to transfer the UN power over to us. That was in 2017-18. And then 3 years ago, the UN made the World Economic Forum co-equal for global governance. So I mean, that whole system is being exposed. It's being discredited. The crown jewel of it, the carbon tax and the social credit score that would implement that and track everything we do, that is gone basically. The UN's plan to, quote, cut half the food production. Remember a couple of years ago, John Kerry, we got to get rid of half the farms or people will starve. True oxymoronic stuff here. This is feudalism. This is serfdom. And so all of that, the old system is being shut down. The predatory Great Reset, collapse of civilization, post-industrial world, and Trump's making real moves to bring us into the George Jetson world that's right under our noses.
It's true. My wife's grandmother is visiting us. She's 95 years old, and I have a Tesla, and I love it. And it's a self-driving Tesla. And she sat in it, and she's like, "This is the Jetsons." That's what she said. You know, she's never been in one of these things, and we just like self-drove, you know, and we went down the street, got ice cream, you know, and the car drives itself. And she's like, "I can't believe it. I can't believe I'm living to see this. It's the Jetsons." That's what she said.
And all of those technologies aren't evil in and of themselves. It's how they're deployed.
Yeah.
And Musk is saying, have more children and have all this empower us and use these, you know, autonomous systems to go out and build our space bases and build our colonies so that humans can then go inhabit them and, you know, use AI, you know, assembling whole fleets and systems out of the asteroid belt to then go terraform Mars quicker. This is really exponential. If it's deployed for humans, it's unlimited. But if it's deployed from a globalist depopulation bent, that the future is not human, that the WEF says, then it is meant to replace us, and it is the Antichrist. So it's a tool, and it really depends on what spirit is in the machine, one of God and the Holy Spirit and pro-human systems, or one of replacing humans.
So I didn't even know what a WEF was when I was in college until I started listening to InfoWars and Alex Jones. And now, and it seemed like so David and Goliath. It was almost more David and Goliath. You know, you in a small podcast studio versus every government on earth in the World Economic Forum. Well, now they're on their back heel. Now they're just straight up admitting that globalism is lost. And now their leadership is resigning. The CEO of the World Economic Forum, Borge Brendy, has stepped down after ties to Jeffrey Epstein. You told me in our last interview 2.5 weeks ago, Alex, that this is the key to completely collapse the global world order, the Epstein files. And if used properly by President Trump, it could actually end globalism as we know it, because now it's all being exposed. Do you believe that's happening here?
Yes, and again, the Justice Department convinced him that, it's a bunch of disinfo, it's all old, it's lies about you, recycled stuff. And then now you hear Trump going, wow, I'm vindicated in all this.
Yes.
Yeah, because here's the deal. I know what's in the files because I've already studied, and so much has already come out in other places, and they bragged about it, that the Trilateral Commission was set up by David Rockefeller. His family put all their money in the Rothschild money into setting up the UN, all of it. He was the head of the Trilateral Commission. He chaired the other global meetings. We now learned in 1990, when Epstein was 30, basically Bill Barr brought him over to be introduced to him, and he was high-level CIA, and he became the main aide to David Rockefeller. And when Rockefeller couldn't go to a Trilateral Commission meeting, he put him on the board, and Epstein represented him. That's why Epstein was so powerful.
Wow. Yeah. It's a lot darker and deeper than what people. I know the truth. I know what it is. And the 1% is not really, happy. And but they really still want this war. You know why? War is profitable. You want me to repeat that again? War is profitable. And when you have a world war, that means a lot of rebuilding. Just saying. All right, let's go ahead and let me see. I got a really good show tonight. So Hang on tight here. Let's go ahead and watch the next.
We had a chance to ask President Trump about a new superpower joining this fight on the Iranian side of Epic Fury.
President Trump, it sounds like the Russians are helping Iran target and attack Americans now.
That's an easy problem compared to what we're doing here. But can I be honest? It's just, I have a lot of respect for you. You've always been very nice to me. What a stupid question that is to be asking at this time. We're talking about something else. Can we keep this maybe a little bit?
And just a few minutes ago, the Iranians confirmed Russia is helping.
Are you receiving any help from Russia?
Well, we have a strategic partnership with Russia.
So that's a yes?
And well, a military cooperation between Iran and Russia is not something new. It's not a secret. It has been in the past, and it's still there and will continue in the future.
General David Petraeus, retired four-star general. What should President Trump do about this?
Well, he should ask Congress to pass the sanctions bill that is in the Senate. Senator Lindsey Graham has led the effort, very close to President Trump, of course. He has over 90 out of 100 senators supporting it. It would be a very powerful signal to Russia. It would complement what the EU has done, which has been very impressive in this regard as well. And I think it's long since time that the sanctions are slapped on Russia, especially now that apparently they're providing the intelligence, which is so very important to the targeting that Iran does. They do not have the kind of intelligence that Russia can share with them and is apparently, and that explains some of the accuracy of the missiles and the drone strikes.
And Epic Fury has been going on for more than a week. We've already seen a part of the Pentagon playbook that we've never seen before, the part where the U.S. has reverse engineered some of these lethal Iranian drones. Listen to this.
You used to always hear, we're shooting down a $50,000 drone with a $2 million missile. These days, we're spending a lot of time shooting down $100,000 drones with $10,000 weapons from ours. So that's one aspect of it. Lucas, indispensable, as many of you know, and if you don't know, this was an original Iranian drone design. We captured it, pulled the guts out, sent it back to America, put a little Made America on it, brought it back here.
General, how often does the United States military reverse engineer a weapon to use it against the people who invented it?
Done it with the aliens.
Pretty rarely, I suspect. We've certainly
we did it with the
taken
aliens.
weapons from different battlefields around the world and sorted out what they consist of, what the capabilities are, what their vulnerabilities are, so that we can develop weapons that can deal with those. You know, we famously brought tanks out, infantry fighting vehicles, others over the years. But no, I'm not aware of something like this in the past and then turning around and using it on the same enemy. What we should also be doing, though, is we should be learning from what the Ukrainians have done, which is nothing short of spectacular and on a scale that is way, way beyond what we're doing. When I was last there about 4 or 5 weeks ago, they told me that they will all together, all the companies, produce about 7 million drones this year. I think we'll produce 4 or maybe 500,000. So the scale of what they're doing and also the capability of what they have and the low cost of what they have is something from which we should learn as well.
Those numbers are staggering. Something else, we know that there is a campaign in the sky. There could also soon be boots on the ground, though, in Iran, according to President Trump aboard Air Force One last night.
Could there be? Possible, for very good reason. Have to be very good reason. And I would say if we ever did that, they would be so decimated that they wouldn't be able to fight at the ground level.
There's some new reporting this morning, various outlets, that the president is talking about maybe going in and securing some of the uranium facilities that are possibly unsecured. What do you think? Should the president put boots on the ground in Iran?
Well, what I do think is that he shouldn't rule them out, and I think he's been correct in doing that. I think that previous presidents have prematurely ruled out various options that we should have kept alive, at least in the mind of the enemy. I think he'll be very, very careful in making that decision and carrying out whatever might be done. It's possible you could have some sneakers on the ground, some of the individuals from my organization, perhaps helping some of the opposition elements, maybe some very special operations forces members or something, but they're not going to be on the front lines. They'll be the advise, assist, and enable elements. There's been talk of actually seizing Karg Island, which is the big oil export location. It's just offshore, well up into the Gulf. And then again, the report that you mentioned about going in to secure the uranium, I suspect that the massive ordnance penetrator would probably obviate the need for that, the 30,000 pound precision munition that only we have, and only we have a plane that can drop it. But I'm sure he'll weigh this very, very carefully, having repeatedly noted the challenges of boots on the ground in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
And it sounds like so far, according to the president, the top two tiers of the Iranian leaders have been totally wiped out. Now there are many mini Iranian command posts spread out all over the country. The Wall Street Journal calls it a mosaic. This is part of their piece. It says, the plan includes implementing a so-called mosaic defense, a decentralized approach that allows individual commanders the autonomy to keep up the fight if cut off from their superiors. You have studied wars in the Middle East for a long time. Can this kind of a mosaic defense that the Iranians are doing actually hold up?
Oh, it can, absolutely. You're talking about a regime force in total. So you're talking about the Revolutionary Guards Corps, the regime force, the besieged militia, the pipe swingers killing people on the streets during demonstrations, national police, the regular Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine. This is 1 million men under arms who have shown a willingness to kill their own citizens in the tens of thousands in January alone during the demonstrations. And they have it very obvious, I think, from the very beginning, because we took out the senior leaders, took out their headquarters, their means of command, control, communications, and so forth. So it was very clear that there has been a delegation of authority, a decentralization, as you termed it, to a number of these lower and mid-level leaders to continue the fight with the assets that they have on hand. And of course, what we've been doing is trying to go after, in particular, the missile launchers and missile stockpiles, and then we'll do the factories as well as now the drones. We've had great success against the missiles. Their launch numbers are down by nearly 90% or so, but there still are some coming. The drones have been a bit more steady, and those have been problematic, even though a number of the countries in the region, especially the UAE, have done very impressively against them and have been taking them down with low-cost, short-range air defense systems rather than $2 million Patriot missile interceptors. That's not good math.
And General Petraeus, my last question. It seems like the beginning parts of Epic Fury have been a big success, overall a big success for the United States. As you look at this, what is your biggest worry about the next couple weeks?
Well, I think President Trump actually captured it quite well when I thought he was very forthright in stating that the worst outcome would be that the regime survives and another hardline ideological cleric takes the place of Khamenei. That would be problematic. That would mean that we're going to see this again and perhaps again. That's very challenging for a region which has built its brand around security and great infrastructure and great opportunities, visionary leadership, and so forth. So I think that's a huge concern. There's another number of ancillary concerns that are not trivial. The price of Brent crude, we're watching, it is now well over $93 a barrel. It was in the low to mid 60s before all of this started. It could go higher if the markets sense that freedom of navigation through the Gulf and then the Strait of Hormuz, and then on the other side, the Bab el-Mandeb, where the Yemeni Houthis have disrupted operations over time, and we think that might start again. That could be problematic as well. Really, I think it's going to come down, though, to a sense of how well have we done against the military objectives, noting that it's not the military's job to bring about regime change. It's the military's job to create conditions in which political transition could take place if, in fact, there is sufficient internal opposition to the regime. But again, keeping in mind that that regime is nearly 1 million men under arms, you'd have to have a very considerable force, with people who are armed, organized, capable, well-led, to take that on. And I think that's why most analysts right now believe that the base case is the regime survives. Then the question is, what is the character of the new supreme leader? Will he be a bit pragmatic or not. And if or not, then there are going to be further challenging times ahead.
General David Petraeus, that was great. And you set up our next block perfectly. So thank you very much for coming to the Sunday briefing.
Good to be with you, Peter. Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News
Go
latest
ahead
on
and
YouTube and catch full shows
I
streaming
don't know
now
why everything's
on
going
Fox
like super slow. I can't even get freaking. Look at this shit. It's doing whatever it wants. What is going on here? All right. Actually, this is a good movie too. That's Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that movie is what's the name of that movie? Total Recall. Total Recall. Oh goodness. Yep, Total Recall. I'm so good with movies and music sometimes. All right, this here is from Jason A. I believe. Is this? No, this is not it. This is the CBS News Texas Warriors. This is Iran names new supreme leader. Okay, so let's check it out. Oh, let's put the sound up. Give me 1 second. Set this right back up here. Here we go.
President Trump called for unconditional surrender in Iran, but CBS News is now reporting there is a new supreme leader of Iran. He is the son, ironically, of the
he's dead.
targeted and
That's a
killed
dead man
in
walking.
the initial U.S. attack in Iran. Mojtaba Khomeini is his name. His leadership announcement comes today as the
He's a
Pentagon
dead
also
man.
announced another U.S. service member has died as a result of injuries sustained in Operation Epic Fury. We have more now from CBS's Nicole Killian.
The Pentagon said Sunday a 7th U.S. service member has died from injuries received during Iran's initial retaliatory attacks last weekend. The service member was seriously wounded during an attack in Saudi Arabia on March 1st. This news comes as plumes of smoke rose from an oil refinery in Tehran on Sunday after it was struck by Israeli and U.S. forces. Throughout the weekend, the U.S. continued airstrikes on Iran, bombs lighting up the sky. Iran retaliated, unleashing missiles on a number of U.S. allies in the region, including Bahrain, where government officials say Iran targeted a desalination plant, which provides the country with critical drinking water. President Trump continues to call for Iran to unconditionally surrender.
It's when they cry uncle or when they can't fight any longer and there's nobody around to cry uncle. That could happen too.
In a televised message, Iran's president said that the U.S. demand for an unconditional surrender is a, quote, dream they can take to their grave. President Trump said he has not ruled out boots on the ground in Iran in order to bring the conflict to a decisive end.
The White House says the president is keeping his options on the table, and some administration officials say they don't expect the conflict with Iran to last long.
But it will not be long. In the worst case, this is weeks. This is not months, and it leads to a much better place.
Depends how they escalate. If Iran escalates,
that can't
this
threaten
is not.
its neighbors, can't
It's
threaten
going to be
American
atomic.
soldiers, and can't continue to drive
the
up
nuclear,
energy prices.
like,
Nicole Killian, CBS News, Doral, Florida.
It'll be since World War II, when we dropped the bombs in Japan, that they fully surrendered. We're looking at possibly something like that again happening in Iran, and I feel like these weapons, these really strong, powerful weapons, are already loaded on planes and are ready to fly out and attack. This is gonna get really ugly. If this is how it ends, well, it ends with no one paid attention. That is so wild. All right, let's go ahead and move it along here to Jason A.
Tawhid, it is actually worth just repeating what you just said. It's 8:30 a.m. in Tehran. It's supposed to be daylight, yet you look like you're broadcasting at night. That is not nightfall. That is a thick cloud of smoke that's enveloped the capital, Tehran. That is extraordinary, and that
Look
is
how dark
a
it is
result
from
of the
smoke.
attacks on the oil refineries there.
It is like a scene from the apocalypse, flames pouring into the night sky over Tehran after Israel struck four separate oil facilities around the city. Benjamin Netanyahu had promised many surprises to come, and these strikes were certainly one of them. Imagine being here when a spill from one of the depots explodes along the drains lining a street. The fires burning long into the night.
Apocalyptic scenes as smoke and flames filled the skies of Tehran as people stopped on the side of the road to see just the aftermath of these Israeli strikes. Today, people on the ground in the Iranian capital describing it as raining oil as these droplets that were taken into the sky started to rain down on the city below.
Oh my God. What an environmental nightmare. Where's the threat?
The question now becomes, if you look at historical examples, air attacks alone, air power alone has not historically led to regime change. Will air power alone, will attacks from the air be able to break up that network that I talked about, exert enough pressure on the regime without having to use ground forces? And of course, we're seeing that the ground force option is not being taken off the table. It's not being discussed very, very much, but it's certainly something that's going to be in the calculus over the next weeks, because in my opinion, we are very much in the beginning phases of this campaign, and I think it's going to last a long time longer.
Our capable armed forces, the powerful forces of the Islamic Republic, are fully prepared to sustain at least a 6 months, full-scale, high-intensity war at the current pace.
Promises not to strike the Gulf were quickly withdrawn. There was a massive fire at a high-rise building in Kuwait after a wave of drone and missile attacks there.
Missiles rained down on the tourist hotspot. This dramatic video shows the iconic 23 Marina Tower pouring smoke after it was struck by debris from an intercepted airstrike.
But nonetheless, the war is expanding into a number of Gulf Arab nations. My tally says 12.
The war zone in the Middle East has turned into a hellscape, an inferno stretching across the horizon of Tehran as Israel targets the country's fuel sites. Israel's Prime Minister outlining the aim of the strikes: destabilize Iran's government.
The chemical roar of burning fuel reverberating across the city. Iran holds one of the world's largest proven oil reserves. Today, its facilities took hit after hit. This is Karaj, a major satellite city, 45 minutes drive from the capital. A strike on a depot here sends fire towering over the skyline. The IDF claims the infrastructure serves the Iranian regime's military forces, but they also service civilians, and they'll be the first to pay the price.
But what happened last night is quite unprecedented, as you can see behind me, and as Tehran wakes up to day 9 since the initiation of the American and Israeli airstrikes. And now I can say it's day, but it seems to be night, as the city is surrounded by a black cloud. And as you can see behind me, it's quite clear. Even when I was coming to the bureau, I saw drops of rain falling into my window, and I just looked at them. They were absolutely black. I mean, there is this high risk of being surrounded by toxic air, as last night we witnessed several fuel depots as well as refineries reportedly were being targeted across different locations.
We are waiting for the official announcement of Iran's new supreme leader, but it comes after a very busy night of strikes across Tehran.
The other bit, of course, is the IRGC. You're actually going to start degrading. We've watched all of the Iranian military, the Navy be lost, the Air Force be lost. I suspect they're going to start focusing on the army. For the Iranians themselves, ultimately, it's very difficult to see them winning, but all they have to do is not lose. And at the moment, if America is not prepared to put boots on the ground, it doesn't matter how much you pound the outside, they're still going to survive. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Indeed. And of course, we have heard that a new US Supreme Leader has been appointed.
Now, we've just got some breaking news that's just come into us. Iran has named the new Supreme Leader. It will be Mustafa Khamenei, the son of the slain Supreme Leader who was killed last Saturday in a Israeli-US strike on the capital, Tehran. He was killed in his compound, and his son has now been named as the new Supreme Leader by the Council of Clerics in charge of selecting the new Supreme Leader. This will be the Islamic Republic's third Supreme Leader since it came to power in 1979.
They're going to take him out.
Disposal, one option that's on the table would be for him at some point, as this war continues, to send in special operations units into sites like Isfahan, which the nuclear site in Iran. And one of the most notable things I think that I found out through my reporting is that these special operations units, Delta Force, they've been training for almost this exact scenario for a long time. So they are at the ready should the president decide that he wants to pull the trigger on this option.
And they had to take them out.
So we understand that that one of the concerns that the administration has right now is the uranium, 60% enriched uranium that is there somewhere under the ground at Isfahan, and they're watching it very closely. Can you tell us, give us some idea about what the dangers are? What can you do with 60% enriched uranium, and what can be done to try to secure that?
It's a great question, and I want to start with something that U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff told Hannity last week during an interview. He said when the Iranians arrived at the negotiating table, they told the American delegation that they had 460 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium, enough to make 11 nuclear bombs. The way you enrich uranium is a process that as you get closer to weapons grade, the breakout time becomes much quicker. And so they were just a couple of weeks away from having weapons grade material that they could ultimately use in a nuclear weapon. And as we've seen, they have the ballistic missile capability. And if they could attach a nuclear warhead, that's when it becomes dangerous to the region. And that's what the United States and Israel wanted to stop. They didn't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. Also at the negotiating table, the Iranians said they wanted a peaceful nuclear program. And then the Americans offered them unlimited nuclear fuel forever. And they rejected this offer. And so the concern was that this enriched uranium could be used to create a nuclear bomb that could threaten U.S. forces or U.S. allies in the region. And at this point, the challenge for the Americans will be identifying where that enriched uranium is located and either destroying it or diluting it. Both of those processes could be very difficult because it is stored underground, but this is part of the game plan for the Americans and the Israelis as this war continues.
And meanwhile, Mimi, Russia has made a declaration over the conflict.
Yes, Russia has explicitly sort of said outright that it is aligning with Iran as part of this war. This isn't really a surprise to many, but it's understood they are helping Iran with intelligence, especially around the U.S. Army and their approach as part of this.
Are you receiving any help from Russia?
Well, we have a strategic partnership with Russia.
So that's a yes?
And well, a military cooperation between Iran and Russia is not something new. It's not a secret. It has been in the past, and it's still there and will continue in the future.
I'm telling you, we're so close to War III. It's knocking right at our doors. Trust me, when it breaks off, I'll be on here. I'll come on live. I've been thinking, I don't know if this show is going to be on after, like, going into April. I just feel like something big is going to happen that we're all pretty much are going to be screwed. And I don't know if I'll be able to go live. Just weird how the energy just plays with my mind. All right, let's see what's going on in Iran. Well, everybody's getting gas. Look at this. And that's like it drains the fuel that they have, and you're gonna be without gas. Oh, a very long line. And this is a lick inside Iran. So you don't always get the fear mongering. You know? See this, everyone's trying to get gas. We're in wild times. All right, here we go.
National reporter, diplomatic editor, indeed, Nick Robertson. He joins us now. I think you're in Riyadh, Nick. Yes, you are. A lot of interest in what is going on there at the moment. We can hear a fair bit of activity behind you. I think it's interesting over the weekend that we have seen more missile strikes against the Gulf states, even though there seemed to be some kind of apology out of Iran.
Yeah, and I think everyone here, when that apology came, was thinking, oh, this is possibly a pathway, an off-ramp here. But, you know, they sat tight, they waited to see what happened, and they were disappointed because the president of Iran's words, Pezeshkian's words, didn't carry any water, didn't carry any weight, because within hours the missiles were falling. They were falling on a university in Bahrain, a desalination plant in Bahrain, in fuel storage tanker capacity at the civilian international airport in Kuwait, at a Kuwaiti government building. Here in Riyadh, there were multiple drone attempts around the capital, Riyadh. We hadn't seen that before. Today, there's been multiple ballistic missile attempts on the Prince Sultan Air Base, which is just outside the capital here. So what has actually happened, what the Saudis have seen, is that the Iranian president's words don't carry weight. And in the past few hours, they've witnessed what is, in effect, a hardliner with the backing of the IRGC become the new supreme leader in Iran. None of it augurs well. None of it hints at an off-ramp and hints at a continuation.
Yeah, it certainly does. The 4 to 5 week timeline that Trump sets down looks unlikely to be reached. This seems like it is going to be something that is long and drawn out. Nick, it might be hard to tell from right now, but as the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia included, gets drawn into this war as they are targeted by Iran, I mean, I think the calculation from Iran might be that they get sick of it, put pressure on the US to pull back. But is that an underestimation as well from Iran?
Look, it is an incredibly sensitive and difficult time for Saudi Arabia. Today, they've announced the first civilian fatalities. An Indian national, a Bangladeshi national were killed in a projectile strike. 12 Bangladeshis injured in that strike. And today also we had the first announcement of the first U.S. fatality here, U.S. service member in Saudi Arabia, injured on the first night of attacks, March the 1st, and died of severe injuries just today. We don't have any information about where precisely that happened. Were there any other casualties, injuries involved at the time? So it begs a lot of questions about, you know, the scale and scope of the ability of Iran to get through with some of its targeting. But I think, look, I think there is perhaps been a perception in some parts in the United States, in Israel, that Saudi Arabia and perhaps the other Gulf states would very quickly sort of align themselves with the United States and join the United States. But I have to say, being here, talking with Saudi officials, they continue to say they don't want to get drawn into the war. They feel it's the United States war, it's Israel's war, not their war. Are they putting diplomatic pressure on the United States not to escalate the situation? At the moment, they're trying to sort of withstand and intercept the barrages that are coming their way. And the hard reality is, if Iran was to escalate further and land some devastating impacts on critical oil infrastructure in Saudi Arabia, that really could draw them towards the war. But the perception in Saudi Arabia is it is the United States war, President Trump's war, Israel's war. And if the Gulf states get drawn in, they could get drawn into a drawn out conflict. And then President Trump, the fear would be here, is that he could walk away and they'd be left themselves fighting a war. They don't want the damage. They don't want the economic cost. Just take Saudi Arabia, for example, Vision 2030 of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, a huge economic vision for employment diversification away from hydrocarbons. 2034, they're supposed to be hosting the Olympics. They've got an expo here, I believe it's next year or the year after, that's going to last about 6 months. There's major economic investment underway here. That's the vehicle how Saudi Arabia and the Gulf wants to project its way forward. So all of this war is counter to those interests. At the moment, they're managing to stand on the sidelines, but as the war gets drawn out and lasts longer, they are going to see their oil products. They're not going to be able to. They're going to have to scale down production because they don't have the place to store their products if they can't get it out through the Straits of Hormuz, which realistically is beyond the scope and scale of the U.S. military to do quickly, effectively, and easily. Because although you can sink Iran's navy, as we saw back in 2019, and I was out in the Straits of Hormuz there watching what was happening, where it just took a small Iranian speedboat to stick a couple of magnetic mines on the side of tanker vessels, and holes were blown in the side of them. Fires were started. So it's very hard to open that waterway. So all of this contributes to a very negative picture at the moment. If you want to put it in these terms, there's a feeling that the Gulf is getting closer to the edge of the precipice, knows what it likes to look over the edge, but now finds itself leaning over and looking down and seeing what's coming, and it's not pretty.
Yeah, great analogy, Nick Robinson. Appreciate you live there in Riyadh talking to us this morning. See you soon.
All right, let's keep it moving. If we could get it moving.
We're also following the latest right now, a stark warning from U.S. Central Command saying that Iran has a potentially warning to civilians in that country, accusing the regime of launching military
it's something's going on with the internet and shit.
Populated areas, putting civilian lives at risk. And this a post on social media from Lucas Tomlins, and saying Iranian forces are using crowded areas surrounded by civilians there to launch those attack drones and ballistic missiles. U.S. forces strongly urge civilians in Iran to stay home. So this is a major development. They say the Admiral Brad Cooper says Iran's terrorist regime blatantly disregarding civilian lives by attacking Gulf partners while compromising the safety of their own people. A live look right there in the Middle East as it is into the early morning hours of the
should be working now
on Monday. Let's bring the conversation right now. Senior fellow with the FDD, Sinan Sidi. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. And this is a stark warning from Central Command saying that Iran is kind of shooting off rockets and missiles from densely populated areas. What do we make of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic sort of Iranian strategy, right? Because it wants to disencourage the United States from essentially retaliating into Iran where civilians are located. But this we've seen in other sort of Iran proxy entities. Hamas was doing the same thing inside of Gaza, essentially having positions inside of the country, or inside of the strip, I should say, where they were, where it was densely populated with civilians, trying to disencourage the Israeli military from striking back. But this is essentially one part of the Iranian strategy. Another one of this is essentially what you're seeing is they're striking densely populated civilian areas inside of the Gulf states in an attempt to pressure the Gulf states to implore the United States to end the war.
How much of a change of strategy is this? Because we've
just
seen
weird,
in the Middle East, the war there, Israel and Hamas, some of those targets, they're accused Israel of Hamas having them over hospitals and the kind. What does this strategy signify from Iran to say they potentially might be shooting these off next to civilians?
I mean, look, this is part of the sort of authoritarian playbook. I mean, countries such as Iran, North Korea, these are sort of, countries that do not respect the rules and engagement of war, simply because for them, either using human shields in the form of their own civilians or striking in enemy territory civilian targets is their game, simply because they think that this will result in pressure being applied to the government of the United States here, or previously in the case of Israel, whereby they're going to essentially say, look, you know, this war has to stop because they're targeting civilians. They're banking on the fact that what they're attempting to do is going to put undue pressure on governments to stop this war.
Yeah, and obviously pressure on terms of other civilians, just the innocent around there. And this is a live picture one more time there in Beirut. And we also know that Iran's war targets widened dangerously into civilian infrastructure on Sunday as Bahrain accused Iran of striking one of the desalination plants that are crucial for the Gulf nations' drinking waters. And we talk about the region there, but I don't know if people really understand the complexity or the importance of some of those plants. Can you speak to that? How important are those? And again, back to the strategy of why exactly they're targeting this and just the basis of it.
Right. I mean, you know, typical targets that we would expect, or what our listeners or observers would expect, is Iran's going to strike sort of things like oil depots, airports, which they're already potentially targeting. And in the case of the Emirates, obviously, they're doing that. But what we underestimate as a general public is Iran's resolve and willingness to strike critical infrastructure to the Gulf states. Simply because if you strike a desalination plant in a country like the Emirates or Israel or any other of the Gulf states which rely on desalinizing water for drinking and actual circulation, this will absolutely cripple the countries. I mean, they would have no drinking water or city water that we're accustomed to. The United States, we're not, you know, used to having desalinated water as our main sort of water supply. We have reserves in natural resources. These countries do not. And in the case that Iran really goes out to sort of precision target civilian infrastructure, this will decimate essentially civilian security in having access to clean drinking water supplies. And they're going to go after other targets too, electricity plants, any other sort of critical infrastructure, which is for them not off the books.
Yeah, that is a good way to describe it because it's so very crucial for the populations of those countries and the neighbors, like you mentioned, being hammered, being pummeled by this. Is there anything we're hearing in terms of response? Are they awaiting the United States to step in? What are they doing about this as Bahrain gets potentially hit about this civilian infrastructure plant?
I mean, we saw in the case of the UAE that they're willing to essentially now enter combat operations against Iran. That I wouldn't be surprised if other countries feel the pressure. But, you know, as far as the United States and Iran is concerned, both are looking at this from a perspective of how much firepower does Iran have, the IRGC have, to continue this sort of barrage of hitting civilian or military infrastructure. They have a limited number and supply of ballistic missiles, and those have been drained by the day, and their ability to replenish and restock those is not very opportune simply because they're in a war footing. But so the United States has been, and Israel has been striking their launch capabilities. And it doesn't matter at one level how many missiles Iran has. If they can't launch them because these launches are being targeted and destroyed, that's going to cut down their time. But also for the US and Israel, one also has to say a critical sort of worry and thing that we're watching out for is we have a limited supply of, you know, offensive ballistic and missile capabilities, which are also being drawn down. And we also want to watch for that. So this is a numbers game at some level.
Yeah, that is so very true. Obviously, taking out some of those interceptors, taking out some of those sites are an objective the Secretary Hegseth has laid ground. I also want to talk about other points because the atrocity that happened at the girls' school in Iran, evidence suggests that the deadly blast at that elementary school was likely a U.S. airstrike. We heard last night aboard Air Force One that Hegseth said they were investigating, President Trump saying it was Iran. How did they go about determining what exactly led to this? Who was actually responsible?
Yeah, that's a very good and tough question to answer because Iran will have no problem in just saying, look, this was a calculated and intentional strike to kill children and civilians, whereas the United States has a historic record for attempting to be judicious about which targets it does strike and being accountable for those. We have numerous redundancies. We have numerous checks and balances that go into essentially how we target and strike our enemy. But the problem with that is obviously this is a widespread war. And
you know, the funny thing about this is they're probably shooting missiles from that area
the United States
where the school is,
targeting civilian
and their system is picking up the missiles, probably launching from the school area.
I'm sure there'll be a thorough investigation and accountability for how that mistake
took place. There's a good possibility that's what happened.
Another reason why Central Command posted that today, warning civilians in Iran, talking about that they might.
I don't even know why there's school kids in school during a war,
some of these
right?
Critical infrastructure points. Speaking to that, you mentioned that this potentially might be close to a target for the United States, and we're talking about precision, and when you talk about the U.S. military, that they're very, very precise. Does that indicate that it may not be the United States just by the fact that it was a missed target location? Would that potentially indicate that it was Iran?
So that's, again, another good question. I mean, we've seen a considerable amount of disinformation and a polluted information space in this war, because it is a war. And given that we're in the age of artificial intelligence, and, it would not surprise me if Iran essentially used as a sort of false flag point. And I'd be very surprised if they did that, because they would be striking their own children. But obviously, there is the Israeli Air Force to consider here, in terms of, right now, we don't have a clear idea of where to attribute the origin of this strike that came from. My bet would still be on the fact that this is a mistake. Like I said, the United States, we have a rich history. Our military is well versed and well schooled in the rules of engagement and what principles of just war are. And we are not in the business of striking civilian targets, especially schools, hospitals, simply because we think that might give us a military advantage. That is not how we do things. And so I'm willing to extend the military, U.S. military, an extended sort of line of credit, simply because we have strong rules of accountability that we don't do that on purpose.
And they said they're going to look into it, a thorough investigation into actually what transpired there. President Trump saying it's Iran at this atrocity, killing hundreds of young children at that elementary school. I also want to ask, because we do know that the United States, in collaboration with Israel, took out the supreme leader and others in that major strike initially, the apparition Epicurean. We know that they're working to elect a new leader, potentially already in the works, indications saying that on the ground. Will we have any indication who exactly that is? Because the United States and Israel both likely to go after that specific target. What would a new supreme leader, who may they be, and how will the U.S. and Israel try to target them?
Yes, I think one of the things to underscore here is the potential for Iran to essentially determine who their next leader is going to be. So at the spiritual level, we have to remember that the supreme leader is more powerful than the president of the country. The IRGC is directly accountable to them. And so in terms of continuity of power and government in Iran, or for the Islamic Republic, this is a critical sort of choice for them right now. What I would say is this. There are a number of names being floated around there, not least of all the late leader Khamenei's son, but there are other contenders in there too. Rather than fixate on a name and what that would mean, I would also stress that what makes this sort of war particularly difficult for the United States and Israel and any other country that's potentially interested in seeing the Islamic regime fail is, unlike other conflicts that we've seen that the United States engaged in recently, such as Venezuela, or potentially when we took out the regime in Iraq back in 2003, Iran has a quite rigid and strong institutional response to continuity. They have prepared for this, and they're very much indicating this too. We may have taken out the top leaderships up until this point, but as far as we can see and determine, governance and the ability of continuity of government in Iran, in the Islamic Republic, seems to be holding up, which is a major challenge. If our intention is to see the demise of the Islamic regime, the intention should be to not necessarily fixate on who the leader is, but we actually have to bring down the apparatus of the IRGC and the girders that support and buttress this regime.
Yeah, and we heard from earlier this week President Trump saying he wants a hand in particularly picking who might be the next leader. And if they already selected it, you might imagine that's not the case, not something that they are in line with. I do want to ask you, because we talk about them potentially not necessarily a single person, just a kind of the construct of the IRGC. We talked about the United States. Their objective isn't a regime change, but depending on who they pick, do you think that could change if it's someone that is in line with the Ayatollah, that is the son of the Ayatollah? Do you think the objectives for the United States, for Israel, might change?
It depends. I mean, I would say that the United States' position on the continuity and the longevity of this war is, as of yet, undetermined. I think we have a relative degree of flexibility as to what we intend as a good outcome, or what we would like to see, whereas our Israeli allies are obviously much more fixated on actually bringing down this regime for the good of the region. And that's not necessarily a wrong sort of desire or strategy to pursue. Ours is a little bit more flexible. I think depending on if the United States sort of puts a position behind its preference or or somebody that's elected that's completely antithetical to what the United States would prefer to have the new government or the continuity of government in Iran. One thing to watch out for, I would suggest, is whether that new governance structure that succeeds the late Khamenei and his sort of elites, which a large number of which have been eliminated, whether that sort of new ruling elite would be willing to sort of sit down at the negotiating table with the United States and make some very hard choices, things that they do not want to countenance. One of which I would say are on the three pillars. One is a complete abandonment of their nuclear program. Secondly, the abandonment of their ballistic missile program, as well as cutting ties and end of supply and supply and enabling of its regional proxies. If they were willing to do that, that could come pretty close to what President Trump has referred to as unconditional surrender.
All right, very good. That would be obvious.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move on with this because that's a long one. So I don't got all night to watch that one, but let's keep it moving.
Says 2 of its soldiers were killed in fighting with Iran's terror proxy Hezbollah in Lebanon. Meantime, U.S. and Israeli forces hammered Iran's oil infrastructure in a new wave of overnight strikes. Iran continues to retaliate against its Middle East neighbors, leading to more civilian deaths as tensions with Tehran appear to be boiling over. Lucas Tomlinson is live in Dubai with the latest on all of that. Lucas.
John, the UAE has been the main target of Iran. This country has been on the receiving end of more of Iran's missiles and drones than any other throughout the Middle East, including Israel. And Iran's foreign minister also said those attacks will continue throughout the Persian Gulf and offered this explanation. Why?
No, we are not attacking our neighbors. We are attacking American bases, American, installations, American assets, which are unfortunately located in the soils of our neighbors. So we are not attacking our neighbors. We are attacking Americans who are attacking us. We are retaliating.
Now, last night, a drone was shot down near one of Dubai's famous skyscrapers in a very popular part of town, sending debris falling down and killing 2 Pakistani nationals in a car. The UAE military is knocking down 93% of all the projectiles fired here from Iran. This new Emirati gun sight video shows some of the more than 1,400 Iranian drones being blasted out of the sky over the Persian Gulf. Over 40% of Iran's drones have been launched at the UAE, twice the number launched at Israel. Overnight, Iran fired 17 more ballistic missiles and more than 100 drones. All were shot down except for 1 missile which splashed down harmlessly in the sea and 4 drones which slipped through. And South Korea says it's sending more surface-to-air missiles here to help this country keep its skies clear. And another drone slipped through in the Persian Gulf, John, this time in Kuwait, hitting this government building, spreading fire to multiple floors. The building housed Kuwait's Social Security Administrations. And since we've been on the ground here in Dubai, John, missile alerts come in about twice a day, unlike in Israel, which the alert is through an app and gives you a little more detailed information about where specifically the missile or drone is going. Here, it is a general alarm on your mobile phone, much like the weather alarms back home. John.
So that attack on that Kuwaiti government building, Lucas, that would seem to put the lie to Iran's contention that it's only going after U.S. forces in those other neighboring countries.
That's right. It was a Social Security building, and it's been pretty dangerous in Kuwait. Of course, the first 6 casualties of the Iran war were U.S. National Guard soldiers from Iowa based at a tactical operations center in Kuwait on the port. Then, of course, you had the Kuwaiti fighter jet and that friendly fire incident, perhaps something more nefarious, shooting down those 3 U.S. Air Force F-15E Strike Eagles. Thank goodness it was miraculous in that case that all 6 on board those 3 jets punched out, all 3 pilots and the Wizzos, the backseaters.
Yep. All right, Lucas Tomlinson reporting live. Lucas, thank you. So Iran has been responding to Operation Epic Fury by striking at its neighbors, as Lucas was just telling us. It says that it is targeting U.S. installations, but as you would expect, tensions are on the rise across the region, and those neighbors are furious at what Iran has been attempting. Steve Harrigan is live in Armenia, just a couple of miles from its border with Iran, maybe less than that. Steve.
John, about a mile away from the border where I'm standing right now, and some real devastating scenes of destruction
in the capital of Iran, Tehran. Over the weekend, U.S. and Israeli warplanes targeting not just military sites, but also infrastructure that supports Iran's military, in particular oil refineries. At least 4 hit in Tehran and on the outskirts of Tehran, really creating some devastating scenes. You have the huge orange flames going up into the sky, the black smoke, and then that oil and smoke mixing with a rainfall that created a black rain falling on that city of 17 million people. Iranians being warned to stay inside their homes, not just to avoid the bombing, but also to avoid now the pollution from that bombing. Those who have the money, the means, are often trying to get out of the city, get away by the thousands, often to quieter areas, like in northern Iran, where the war is largely untouched so far. Here's one scene we saw right along the border between Armenia and Iran. We can show you a scene here from northern Iran. We're right now standing in Armenia. Beneath us here is the Arax River. Once you get across that river, that's where Iran begins. You can see rural scenes there, some sheep, a controlled burn, and tremendous mountains in the background. This is the area where the border crossing between Armenia and Iran is still a working land crossing. So we could see it get very busy in the coming days if refugees or supplies need to get in or out of Iran in a hurry, especially if the ports or the air is completely shut down. This is the way in or out. So we could see some dramatic changes to a pretty calm rural scene here in the coming days ahead. That potential flood of refugees leaving Iran by foot has not materialized yet. Right now at that border crossing, there's a pack of taxi cabs from Armenia waiting to drive people north. Few takers at this point. John, back to you.
All right, Steve Harrigan in Armenia. Keep an eye on the situation there for us, Steve. Thank you. So with the war in its second week now, the U.S. and its allies have had their hands full with Iran's swarms of attack drones. Iran's Shahed 136 drones are easy to produce and relatively cheap at about $20,000 a piece. Stopping them is expensive, with America's Patriot and THAAD interceptors costing millions of dollars. Let's bring in Dr. Rebecca Grant, National Security and Military Analyst and Lexington Institute Vice President. I guess the good news here, Dr. Grant, is that there are fewer and fewer of those Shahed drones being launched from Iran.
Yes, the drone threat is dropping. And from a tactical perspective, Iran's drones cannot stop Operation Epic Fury. John, we have a very deep bench of counter-drone systems. It starts with our fighter jets from the Ford up in the Med all the way down the Gulf states, and then the pinpoint defenses. In addition to Patriot and THAAD, there's a whole long list because the U.S. technology has been knocking down these Iranian drones over Ukraine in the hands of Ukrainians for years. And I'm talking Coyote, Vampire, NASAMS, Frankensams, SlamRam, Mirops, just a partial list of the types of counter-drone systems that may have been pushed forward and are really taking a toll on Iran's launch rates.
But the Iranians have suggested they have help from the Russians, that the Russians are helping them perhaps target, find targets for these drones.
More than suggested, Iran's foreign minister has bragged about their military cooperation. But I'm telling you, Russia cannot save Iran with this information. A couple overhead satellites aren't going to do it. They may be trying to pass coordinates or tactical characteristics, but it's not working. Iran hardly has anything left to fire, and we are so able to suppress these drones, either kinetically by hitting them or with electromagnetic jamming, that the U.S. and our allied partners really have the upper hand, and Russia is not making an impact here on a military scale.
I know that the Israelis have been working on lasers that can bring down drones, and apparently they've had some success with that. That's a very cheap
lasers
way of intercepting very cheap drones.
Yes, that's one thing. They've started to field that system. Of course, the U.S. has researched this as well. But the big thing is, just as you point out, we need more effectors, more interceptors. The Ukrainians have made some interceptors too. But it is really the U.S. technology that ties together the detection, the surveillance.
Bring in, or maybe start World War III or something as a result of attacking their neighbors. But it's really backfired on them, has it not?
Oh, yes. Iran's choice to go to war with their neighbor across the strait, the UAE, to send that many drone attacks and missile attacks. It's unbelievable. And they've attacked on an arc really all the way from Azerbaijan right down through Oman, of course, all the Gulf states as well. It's an incredibly bad decision. And I think it's really hardened the resolve in the region and in the world to absolutely wipe out Iran's military capability. And that military metric, that is the measure of success for Operation Epic Fury. And they're doing a good job so far.
The U.S. CENTCOM is issuing a warning to Iranian citizens. Here's how it reads. It says the Iranian regime is using heavily populated civilian areas to conduct military operations, including launching those one-way attack drones and ballistic missiles. This dangerous decision risks the lives of all civilians in Iran, since locations used for military purpose lose protected status and could become legitimate military targets under international law. They're taking a page for what Hamas and Hezbollah have been doing, hiding military assets in civilian areas.
Yes, and I'm glad Admiral Cooper has put that out. That means if there is a drone launch around Isfahan or one of Iran's big cities, and it pops up as a dynamic target to U.S. aircraft or shooters that are in the area, but Iran has chosen to put it near their own civilians. But as we know, John, Iran does not care about killing their own civilians, and they're willing to risk their civilian lives again to continue these drone attacks. And the drones are scary. They've caused casualties. They've caused damage, but they are small warheads. They are not militarily effective from a tactical perspective. And Iran is not going to stop Operation Epic Fury with these drones.
Dr. Rebecca Grant, thanks for your expertise.
Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe
So
for
let's
all
go
the
ahead and keep it moving.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's the meme of the day brought to you by 5mind.com. So we've got a little bit of a bombshell here. You know how normally a very tightly controlled regime like Iran, no matter what the situation, you would see kind of a united information front. Everything could be burning around them, as it appears it currently literally is. And what you'd expect from the government is just nonstop propaganda. The state media lady would keep popping up, signaling strength and resolve. Well, folks, it appears all of that broke down today, as we're now seeing a rift in Iranian regime messaging. You've got the Ayatollahs doing and saying one thing, and their puppet president essentially apologizing and surrendering. He's now issuing a statement declaring an end to their airstrike campaign targeting U.S. assets in foreign Arab nations. Folks, this is the first day where the cracks are really starting to show. It's total panic. This appears to be a regime, or at least some people within the regime, realizing that this whole situation is spiraling out of control. They're starting to hit the panic button. They're starting to realize they're getting pulled into the Ayatollah's suicide mission. This is now creating a very interesting dynamic that I think speaks a lot to where we are in this current situation. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so here's the latest development to drop. Iran to halt strikes on neighbors unless attacks from there. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian said neighboring countries will no longer be targeted unless an attack originates from there. Let me show you guys the clip that's actually circulating. This is from Al Jazeera, by the way, so I'm going to assume that the translation is accurate, but it starts off by him apologizing to neighboring countries.
من اینجا لازم است کشورهای همسایه که مورد حمله قرار گرفتن از طرف ایران از طرف خودم عذرخواهی کنم برای اینکه ما این روند با اوضاعی که ما قصد تجاوز به کشورهای همسایه نداریم، همان گونه که بارها گفتم اونا برادران ما هستن. ما با این عزیزان در منطقه باید دست به دست هم بدیم و صلح و آرامش رو برقرار بکنیم و امیدوارم این اتفاقاتی که افتاده در تصمیمی که ما دیروز در شورای موقت رهبری ما گرفتیم، این تصمیم به نیروهای مسلح گزارش داده شد که از این به بعد نباید به کشورهای همسایه حمله بکنن و یا موشک بزنن مگر اینکه از اون کشورها بخوان به ما حمله بکنن و من فکر میکنم این رو ما با دیپلماسی باید حل کنیم تا با دعوا کردن با کشورهای همسایه به مشکل رسیدن.
So it's exactly like I've been saying. That's probably the biggest mistake that Iran made, retaliating in the absolutely hysterical manner that it has, basically flailing its frickin' arms around, causing mayhem and wreckage everywhere around it. Hitting Gulf states was a massive strategic mistake. They're now dragging the entire Arab world into war. And obviously, that's the fastest way you're going to turn half of these countries against you. And that happened very swiftly. Azerbaijan, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, none of them were tolerating the Iranian strikes in their countries. And now I guess that's caused panic amongst the political rank of the Iranian regime. And so out comes the president apologizing and declaring that it's going to come to an end. And so a lot of people would, of course, absorb that information and say, okay, well, I guess maybe the Iranian regime's not all that crazy. Maybe they can be reasoned with. But well, not exactly. Here's the thing. This Iranian president of sorts, he's basically irrelevant. Iran doesn't have a normal political system as we have, where the president is essentially the executive of the nation. No, don't forget, this is an Islamic authoritarian regime. This Pezeshkian character is essentially a nobody. The Islamic Republic of Iran is run by a clerical power structure, the mullahs, the Revolutionary Guard, the Ayatollahs network. The president is largely a public face. He's there to essentially give this regime a veneer of legitimacy. They found this guy who I guess is probably one of their top achievers. I read up on him. He's a surgeon, an educated professional, yada, yada. And so they put him at the forefront to say, look, we're just like you, the outside world, but it's exactly that. It's a facade. And so this guy is groveling, saying, my apologies, whoopsies, we're going to stop these operations. And then 5 seconds later, boom, explosions are being reported across the Gulf and in the UAE. There's an incident in Dubai and Abu Dhabi now tied to intercepted Iranian missiles and drones. And so you've got the president apologizing, saying, oh, it's not going to happen. And then it immediately happens. And that tells you all that you need to know. We're dealing with a psychotic regime. And that's, of course, why we're here in the first place. You know, you hear this all the time. Well, they were trying to negotiate with Trump. They were engaging in negotiations. They had a meeting set up with President Trump 2 days after the strikes, after Operation Epic Fury. But this talking point is moot. It's always been ridiculous. Negotiating with the Iranians. They've been saying this, we're in negotiations for freaking decades. Obama gave them billions of dollars on pallets of cash in what were supposedly fruitful negotiations. They negotiate, they promise. They make these public statements, and it's always to distract you. And now I guess the question is, was that the tactic? To get this puppet president to say, oh, we're not going to do it, and then launch strikes? Well, if that's the case, if that's the grand strategy, well, that's got to be one of the most pathetic things I think I've ever witnessed. Wow, okay, debris hit a hotel again, I guess, in Dubai. I mean, the total decimation of their relationship with Arab nations, countries that used to be mediators and mostly neutral in the region, now essentially are out for Iranian blood. But it's either that was a grand strategy or what we're seeing is a massive rift, which I think is a much more likely explanation. You've got people in the political power structure in Iran that are trying to step on the brakes. They're realizing, again, as I mentioned in the intro, this is an Ayatollah suicide mission against the most powerful military force known to mankind. You've got the Ayatollahs, you've got these military commanders that are, trying to push full steam ahead, launching attacks, and you've got the, I guess, more political kind of pragmatist people trying to pull in a different direction. And it's really no wonder why this may be happening. And your Tehran oil refineries are looking something like this. Well, then I guess it kind of has you second guessing, huh? Multiple, let's call it cabinet iterations have essentially been obliterated, vaporized from reality. Now you've got this, their ability to refine oil, getting again sent back to the frickin' Stone Ages. I'd be questioning my life choices. I would be issuing apology videos to my neighboring Arab nations because this is becoming, in my view, a position that you cannot recover from. And just think about the strategic importance of that. Sure, the Democrats and all the naysayers are going to point at gas going up, but America, for the most part, is not reliant on Gulf oil. I think there's a less than 1% reliance nationwide. It accounts for almost nothing of the energy portfolio. But yes, globally, the price of a barrel of oil will indeed go up off of this. Gas is going to go up, maybe not to Joe Biden highs, but it's going to go up. And the left's going to focus on that, blah, 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 the price of oil, the price of oil, the price of oil. But then also think about the position that this now puts China in. think of the position this now puts the Iranian regime in. How are they going to fund any defense if they have no energy? Well, again, the option is coordinate, cooperate, capitulate, frankly, exactly like we're seeing with Delcy Rodriguez in Venezuela, which, by the way, relations seem to be ameliorating in that situation. Trump just recognized Delcy Rodriguez's government as the legitimate government of Venezuela. We're getting everything that we want without regime change. And in reality, we know the situation. Marco Rubio is the president of Venezuela. But essentially, go down that path, align your government with ours, reform to our expectations, or figure out the frickin' hard way. Again, the Ayatollahs, they're purely ideological. They will never give up. But I think most people are not like them. Probably most Iranians are not even on that same bandwagon. Clearly, the Arab world is. And even top leadership appears to already be getting cold feet. You know, the offer has been set. They got two options. Clearly, right now, they're leaning towards the most difficult option. But I think slowly but surely, President Trump just might force their hand and effectuate a very easy outcome. We'll have to see. Anyways, that's what I got. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
All right, let's keep it moving. Benny Johnson.
What is the economic message that you want to hear tonight?
I think, first of all,
I mean, if you were on the phone with them, I know I don't want to be rude and ask a gentleman like yourself to disclose a private conversation.
Well, maybe it's different with Senator Kennedy, but I listen a lot when I'm on President Trump. And I mean, I'm trying to soak up the historical significance of the fact that some little redneck from West Hills, the 435th most powerful member of Congress, is talking to the most powerful man in the world, and he calls me by my first name. I think that to me is kind of, and I think about my mom and daddy. I think about them, daddy fighting in the Pacific, my mama flying an airplane when she's 17 years old during the Second World War because her brother got killed by the Nazis. And I think about all those things. I think about the hardworking people back in Tennessee. But I think what I think about when they talk about the economics of the situation is he closed the dadgum border, Benny. And, you know, when I was mayor of Knox County, we had a small school that had, I think, around 200 kids in it, one of our inner city schools. And I was always shocked that the English as second language, there's between 15 and 20 different languages. Now, that's a cost on the taxpayers. When these folks go into an emergency room, guess what? They're getting health care because we got the best dadgum health care in the country. And you and I are going to have to pick up the tab. And I mean, these costs are added on to everything. And when the crime, of course, somebody loses a life or a kid gets raped by one of these dirt bags, you know, I don't think we ought to send them back to their country. I think we ought to send them to hell, personally. You know, short piece of rope and a tall tree. And I'm not being black, you know, because I've dealt with this a lot when I was in the state legislature, these issues like that. And I think Trump gets it. You know, we're leading the world now in gas and oil production. Inflation is fairly stagnant right now compared to under the Biden administration. You don't hear the Democrats or the liberals in the media talking about the price of gasoline or the price of eggs. Why? Because they've come down. And we still got some issues. We got some issues to deal with. And I know people are unhappy or they're uneasy with the tariffs. But in 1914, I believe when the income tax came in, we weren't paying any taxes. It was all coming in by tariffs. And we could literally foresee a day if we could just stick with this president. I think he gets it. He has our interest at heart. And carry this thing through, we would be in much better economic shape. And the Dow Jones at 50,000, you know, it's remarkable.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't carry forward a message from James Comer, who was here just a few minutes ago, and he said, you have to ask Burchett about this. He says, I ain't going to answer your UFO question. Burchett's going to answer it.
UFOs.
So he punted it, and he said, you ask that man, and you do it right now. He answered like 50 Bill Clinton questions, but he said, you give it to Burchett.
Yeah, so I saw Comer out
this is me just doing my job.
Chairman's my buddy. He's a good man from Kentucky. Yeah. I just want to know what we're spending tens of millions of dollars on. I don't know if there's little green men or flying saucers out there. I've talked to the best pilots in the world, which are American military pilots that fly $500 million worth of aircraft in an incredible amount of training. And they've told me, one guy said, Burchett, that thing was 14 feet from my canopy. Or he said, Tim, actually. And I've talked to an admiral who had an instance. I've talked to military men and women. I've talked to just regular Americans. Something's going on, Benny. And, you know, the Bible talks about it as a, you know, God created the heavens and the earth. And also it's Ezekiel saw the wheel. If you read first chapter of Ezekiel, it pretty much describes a UFO. It talks about a wheel within a wheel. Now, The classic UFO is the saucer shaped and there's something on top. And I've never seen anything. I've not seen any. Well, I take that back. I've seen things, but that's since I've been in Congress and I'm not allowed to discuss this. I would just hope that the president would disclose everything that I've seen in every skiff I've been in every confidential conversation, every picture I've seen, every video I've seen. I wish that he would release all those.
Would that change the world? I mean, would that change people?
No, I don't think so. I think we just realize that we're one grain of sand in 100 million beaches. And I mean, if you think we're the best that God can do, I think you greatly underestimate God.
Wow.
So
Donald Trump said, like Barack Obama, he's sharing classified information. When Obama goes on a podcast like this and goes, aliens are real, and here's where they're not being kept.
And then he backtracked.
Which is very,
I just don't get it. I don't get it. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. I know I die right now. I'm a Christian. I'm going to heaven. Mom and dad are going to be waiting on me and it's going to be a great reunion.
Yeah.
And I'll be with Jesus. I'll be with everybody. But I'm not worried about it. I do not worry about it. If they have this incredible technology and wanted to get us, I think they'd already gotten us. So I don't think that's a worry. So, and I know people make fun of me all the time about this issue, but it has polled over 50%. I've been in rooms with doctors and lawyers, fellow members of Congress that have seen things, that believe in it. And they just don't want to say it publicly. And I'm just an idiot, I guess. So there's your sound track. There's your sound bite. I'm an idiot. Everybody already knew that. Senator Kennedy already told me that when I walked in. Burchett, you're an idiot.
I know you. I know you're a Christian man. Final question: does this? Anna Polina Luna says these are spiritual entities, and I think our audience. We polled the audience when Trump announced this, and they tend to believe this as well. Do you?
I don't know. She's quoting the Book of Enoch, which is one of those books that's not included in our Bible, in the current Bible, and I've read those chapters that describe whatever associating with our females and things. So I don't know. I'm not. Again, I'm where I need to be spiritually, and I'm not worried about demonic forces in my life. I worry about them in some of my friends' life, but honestly, I do not worry about it. So I just want to know what we're spending the money on. That's our role in government, and it is never the role of government to decide what you or I should be able to handle. I think that's wrong.
Okay. More disclosures. All right.
Trump's the guy. Transparency.
Maybe it'll happen
Thank
tonight.
you, brother.
Maybe it'll happen tonight, Congressman.
I doubt it.
Just roll on up.
I think.
You just have the fight. You can do an Oprah.
I think
you do an Oprah thing. Everyone reach under your seat. There's a UFO disclosure.
Everybody gets a UFO.
Everyone gets.
I wish she'd hop on a UFO. Anyway. All right.
Okay. What are you going to say? What are you going to say to the rowdy Democrats? What are you going to say if some Democrat starts running their mouth?
I'll put them in their place just like I do usually. I don't care. I'm not afraid of them.
What if it's your homegirl AOC? She's like your friend.
She's my friend. I mean, I don't agree with her on a dadgum thing. We came to Congress together. I mean, I came to Congress to Omar. She's a friend, but I want to know. I requested from Intelligence Committee to find out about her immigration status. I'm tired of the talk. Just one way or the other. Let's just get it out there.
You think she's an alien?
Illegal? Or are you talking? Yeah.
No, who knows?
I don't know. I just want to know. And I'm tired of everybody talking. It was a three sentence letter. I told my guys, I said, I don't want a bunch of fluff. None of your usual, Chairman, thank you for your hard work on all your great. I just write the dadgum letter and cut it down. And I just want to know. And so wrote it in January 7th, I believe. And I still haven't heard back, but I'm sure they'll get to it.
We'll find out.
That thing that just ran by you, you know what that was? A glacier. That's Congress right now. See you, Benny. Love you, buddy.
Thank you.
How many babies you got? You got one on the way?
I got 5, baby.
4.5?
5 in 5 years. That's right. The South's been good for us.
No, I mean, did you have one on the way?
Yes.
Okay, so you got 6?
So this is announcing number 5. We have
4
right now, and my wife's pregnant.
Well, I love you, brother, and everybody loves you back in Tennessee. Every time,
that's right, man.
I seen you on that Benny show. I saw you at the Walmart.
More Christians, more Americans. Thank you. See you in there. You gonna wear the Carhartt?
No, it's against House rules. Although Democrats were allowed to wear their jackets when they were in leadership, or they were in the majority, and I said, what about them? He said, well, he's chairman. He's Democrat. I can't say that.
They wear all outfits all the time. You can't wear this.
I'm gonna take it off. It's just cold. These Yankees keep me cold.
Okay.
He's like, it's freaking cold. All right, let's keep it moving. The hell? Oh, shit. What the hell? Whoa. What's happening here? Oh, shit, there's people hanging from the car. Oh, shit, that car's getting beat up. Oh, my God. Yo, cameraman never dies. Come on. You getting the good hit. The good skip. Oh, Lord. The bumper's gone. Oh, shit, there's two people hanging from the car. Oh, damn, that car is going to be totaled. Yeah, give my car back, bitch. Oh, shit, look, she got in the car. Oh, she got in the car. Who the hell is this dude? The hell? Yo, they just crashed up that car. Yo, my man just walking away? What? He took off? Wow, that's crazy. That's so crazy. Look at this shit. Look at the car. It's tore up. Look. Oh, shit. Damn. He tore that car up. She probably punching him and shit and trying to get him to, like, release the car. But they keep going in circles. Look at this. She's back in there again. Damn. Holy shit. So the victim confronts the alleged car thief at the intersection. She saw her car and she got out and she's like, that's my car. And these individuals were with her. So they're trying to take over the car and get back the car. And this motherfucker doesn't want to get out of the car. Look. He acting like a little puss. Look at him. Oh. What the hell? I don't know, man. This world is turning into like a GTA for sure. Grand Theft Auto. Let's keep it moving.
Oh, there it is. Tornado on the ground right there. You see it? The funnel. We got a rope. Yep, there's a rope. There's a rope.
Tornado.
Oh my gosh. We're just gonna watch it for just a second, okay? All right, guys. We're in Mendon, just south of Mendon. You can see the tornado. Debris in the air.
Look at that. It's working its way down.
Well, we got funnels coming down. Look at that. Debris again in the air. All right, we got to go.
It's trying to come back.
It did for a second. Damn, those people are flying. Oh, is that a person? Oh, here it comes. Holy cow. Wow. Storm chasers.
That's wild. Crazy tornadoes. All right, let's continue on with some Tyson De La Cruz.
Move on, we'll get some other ones.
What is a lesbian, sir?
It's your word. How do you? All right. If you liked another girl.
I like Olivia. Am I a lesbian?
Well, if you like Olivia, you could be, sure.
I like Olivia. I love Olivia. I like Olivia too. Am I a lesbian?
The Supreme Court has handed down a ruling temporarily blocking a California law preventing teachers from informing parents about their students' gender expression.
America, the Supreme Court just told California something that should have been obvious to anyone with a functioning brain. Parents have the right to know if their kid is going through a gender transition at school.
They argue schools kept families in the dark and supported students' social transitions without parental consent. California officials say the law protects student privacy.
Kids don't have privacy from their parents. Teachers don't get to vote. Schools don't have the authority. Parents do.
The Supreme Court today ruled in favor of the claim of parents to be able to know the gender identity and gender pronoun of their children.
And California guys are so committed in keeping secrets from parents that they're willing to risk $4.9 billion in federal education funding to keep the system running. What is up, guys? Tyson De La Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Let me show you how California just became the poster child for government overreach and why parents are about to win the war on a war that they should have never been fighting in the first place. Let's talk about what California actually legislated. Assembly Bill 1955, passed in 2024, made it illegal for schools to have mandatory parental notification policies if students change their gender identity, pronouns, or expressions at school. Let me just bring that down a notch so everybody can understand. California didn't just say let students decide. They made it a crime, you guys, for school districts to require teachers to tell the parents. What?
That just makes no sense. I mean, it's just bull.
The ruling comes after religious parents and educators represented by the Thomas More Society challenged California school policies aimed at preventing staff from disclosing a student's gender identity. That decision temporarily blocks for now a state law that bans automatic parental notification requirements if students change their pronouns or gender expression at school.
Religious parents and educators said, hold on, you're forcing us to lie to parents? And California's response was basically, yes. And if you don't like it, we'll see you in court.
That policy requiring schools to tell parents about gender or pronoun changes. This originally started when California Attorney General Rob Bonta had sued Chino Valley Unified over its newly adopted parental notification policy. Bonta says the district's policy violates students' civil rights.
2 years ago, when Chino Valley Unified tried to implement a parental notification policy, California Attorney General Rob Bonta sued him. He didn't advise him. No negotiation. He sued a school district for wanting to tell their parents the truth about their own kids. Here's my question, you guys. Why are California teachers even having conversations with kids about sexual orientation and gender identity in the first place? What part of teach math, teach science,
they used to do that to us, though. They taught us the birds and the bees.
Socially transition without parental knowledge. This, my friends, should have never been allowed in the first place. Not in the first grade. Not in the third grade, not in the seventh grade, never. The Supreme Court didn't issue this emergency order because of some abstract legal theories. They did it because of what happened to one specific kid.
In an unsigned order, the court found, quote, we conclude that the parents who seek religious exemptions are likely to succeed on the merits of their free exercise clause claim.
The case involves a 7th grade student whose school transitioned her socially, gave her a new name, gave her new pronouns, new identity without even telling the parents. And here's the kicker. That child is now under psychiatric care. Let that sink in for a moment. The school played doctor. They played therapist. They played parent. And the kid ended up needing actual psychiatrist treatment.
Kathy Molig with Trans Family Support Services says she's concerned about the impact on students in non-affirming homes.
I am really concerned about our kids that do come from these non-affirming homes, that they know that they're going to get in trouble, that they're going to possibly have violence brought up against them, possibly kicked out of their homes.
And watch how activists frame this. They're concerned about students in non-affirming homes. What? Translation for you guys that didn't understand that. Parents who don't immediately agree with transitioning their middle schooler or elementary schooler are labeled dangerous. Do you notice what they never say, you guys? They never mention the psychiatric outcomes. They never talk about the detransitioners. They never acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, parents know their own children better than a school teacher does.
Yep.
Now, here's where California's priorities become absolutely crystal clear. In January 2026, 2 months before the Supreme Court ruling, Secretary of Education Linda, don't mess with her, McMahon, officially found California in violation of federal law. Her statement was absolutely brutal. Children do not belong to the state. They belong to the families. And she backed it up with consequences.
Damn.
California stands to lose $4.9 billion in federal education funding if they don't comply with parental rights laws.
Professor Erwin Chemerinsky with UC Berkeley School of Law says this is an emergency ruling.
This law is now put on hold. So what it means is that schools can require that teachers and other staff inform parents about the gender identity or gender pronouns of children.
They say schools can now require teachers to inform parents. But listen how they phrase it, like it's some radical, out-of-the-world concept that teachers would tell parents basic information about their own children. This is why, if you can, homeschool your kids. California's making a bet that they're gambling $4.9 billion, money that pays teachers, salaries, funds schools programs, and keeps the lights on, all to maintain a system where schools can keep secrets from parents. Heck no.
Well, new data shows that school attendance has become a national problem since the COVID-19 pandemic. The Department of Education says at least 10 million students were chronically absent during the first year of the pandemic, and those numbers remain high now.
And you know what else is happening in California? Chronic absenteeism. 1 out of 4 kids aren't showing up to school regularly. Enrollments are declining across the state and across many other states. Parents are pulling their kids out of schools. I wonder why, you guys. I wonder why. Maybe because when you tell parents they can't be involved in a major life decision affecting their children, they stop trusting you with their kids. I would. This Supreme Court ruling isn't happening in a vacuum. It is the second major parental rights victory in less than 1 year. In June 2025, the Ninth Circuit ruled that parents have the right to opt their elementary schools out of LGBTQ plus curriculum books. California fought that one too, and they lost. Now they lose again. The same issue, same court, same results. Parents have rights. Schools don't own your kids.
The Assembly is meeting right now to declare the nation's first Transgender History Month. Assembly leaders say every August will now be known in the state as Transgender History Month. They say the month would educate and raise awareness about the contributions of the transgender community.
Military only gets 1 day.
California was declaring August Transgender History Month and mandating school celebrations. They were simultaneously suing school districts that wanted to tell parents about their kids' transitions. That is not about student safety. That is about ideology. That is about a worldview where the state apparently knows better than the parents.
So if you know by now, taxpayer dollars follow the student to whichever public school they attend. So fewer students in a school means schools are losing funding.
Every kid who leaves public schools takes their funding with them. Homeschooling is absolutely exploding. Private school enrollments are surging like never before. Charter schools are expanding. Parents are obviously voting with their feet and their wallet. And states, unfortunately, like California, can either respect parental rights or watch their enrollment and their budgets absolutely collapse.
The first reason is school districts just overbuilt. They built 630,000 more seats than they need. That's 50% more than what we need today.
And instead of asking why parents don't trust us, California doubled down and spent millions and millions on illegal fees defending a law that lets schools keep secrets.
School nurses are like, well, if you're not sure about whether your kid should come to school today, drop by the school. We'll check them out. We'll let you know whether they should stay home or not. And that school district, it's Livingston, California, has extraordinarily low levels of chronic absence, starting with the youngest kids.
And here's proof that it works the other way. Livingston, California, a district that partners with parents instead of hiding from them, has extraordinarily low chronic absenteeism. Because when you work with families instead of against them, good things actually happen. Believe that or not. Radical concept, right? America, the Supreme Court just handed down an emergency order that shouldn't have been necessary in the first place. They had to tell California something that every parent already knows. You have the right to know what's happening with your own child. Secretary Linda Putnett, the smackdown McMahon, put it perfectly in January. Children do not belong to the state. They belong to the families. Here's what California is betting on. They think that they can ignore this ruling, drag it out through the Ninth Circuit, and hope courts eventually side with them. They're willing to lose billions, fight parents, and watch enrollment collapse, all while maintaining a system where teachers have more authority over their kids than you do. But here's what they're missing. This isn't 2020 anymore. Parents watched schools shut down for C-19 while refusing to open. They saw curriculum become propaganda machines. They watched chronic absenteeism triple while administrations blame everybody except themselves. And now they know schools have been keeping secrets about their own children's mental health and identity. The parents' rights revolution isn't coming. My friends, it is already here. And California just became a national example of what happens when the government thinks that they own your kids. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
We're gonna go right to the next one. We got a back. So here we go. Let's set it up and watch.
At the center of what the Oklahoma Attorney General called a $1.5 billion drug operation was Hao Chen. He was the first to be arrested as part of Operation Blunt Force.
America, federal agents just busted a $1.5 billion trafficking ring stretching across multiple states. Operations funded by Chinese organized crime and using American citizens as human shields. The mastermind that we exposed last month, Chinese Chen.
Hello, please. Bing bong, ting chong.
He's walking free on bond.
Chen is in the process of bonding out. His bond, only $100,000.
They caught him red-handed running a criminal enterprise. Oklahoma's letting him walk free while the governor says the entire medical industry needs to be completely shut down, because when Chinese criminals exploit your system for billions and billions of dollars, clearly the answer is to punish everybody. What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. For those of you that missed our deep dive last month, here is a quick 30-second version of how Chinese Chen turned Oklahoma into Beijing's marijuana plantation. Here's how it works. U.S. law says you have to be a citizen or a legal resident to own a license in most states. So Chen found Americans probably desperate for money and cash, or needy or greedy, and paid them to put their name on the license while he controlled everything.
Hao Chen's organization is responsible for more than $1.5 billion in black market marijuana, money laundering, and other racketeering activity.
Chinese nationals can't legally own marijuana businesses in Oklahoma, so Chen paid Americans to put the license and property in their names, and he controlled everything. The money, the operations, the supply chains. The Americans, they got the paperwork. The Chinese got the profit.
The money.
And when it all collapsed, guess who's holding the bag? February 2026, federal agents launched what they're calling Operation Blunt Force. Great pun. The name's very fitting, and it's absolutely not subtle for what they found as well.
Chen's capture led to 19 more arrests, seized firearms, and law enforcement destroying thousands of pounds of black market marijuana.
They used a straw ownership scheme
to unlawfully obtain licenses from the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority and registrations from the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics.
73 people arrested, operations in Oklahoma, operations in California, and distribution networks reaching states where marijuana is still illegal. And at the center of all this,
Wow,
the same
that's crazy.
playbook that we exposed with Chinese Chen. Chinese nationals recruiting Americans as fronts.
About every other state in the United States at some point was receiving large amounts, semi-trucks of black market marijuana that was grown in Oklahoma.
You hear about illegal marijuana grow busts almost weekly.
In southeast Oklahoma, more than a dozen arrests and thousands of marijuana plants are seized.
Marijuana legal in 2018, the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics says law enforcement agencies in surrounding states have pointed the finger at the Sooner State, alleging at one point 40% of America's black market marijuana comes from here.
Primarily from China. I love how they phrase that like it's some kind of mystery, as if we didn't know for years that Chinese triads have been colonizing Oklahoma's marijuana industry and Midwestern farmland, while state regulators play three monkeys and see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil, except in this particular case, Mandarin, apparently.
Straw owners were paid to lend their identities to fraudulent grow applications.
Yeah, and they did it for the money.
Over 20 illegal operations in Oklahoma and 7 other states, all manufacturing marijuana on an industrial scale. Authorities say the black market drugs were then trafficked across the country.
And here's the beautiful
lines.
part. Every single
That's
one
where
of
they're
these
gonna hit
boxes
'em.
was legally owned by an American citizen. On paperwork, at least. This looks like a small-time American entrepreneur chasing the green rush. In reality, the Chinese mob was using Americans as human camouflage. Now, let me tell you about Oklahoma's justice system's latest galaxy brain move. Remember Chinese Chen, the guy that we exposed for orchestrating this entire scheme? Yeah. He's out on bond.
His bond only $100,000 because the attorney general failed to show up to today's hearing.
The attorney general didn't show. The judge listened to argument, set the bond at what he said.
No way.
100,000, GPS monitoring, surrender passport, restrictive travel.
Hours after a judge ruled on how Chen's bond, Chen's attorney says the attorney general's office showed up to push for the bond to be increased to $1 million.
Show up at about noon. They file their own motion. We have to then go in front of another judge and then have another bond hearing in front of the district judge who sustained the special judge's reasoning and the ruling of the bond.
Prosecutors literally said this man has direct ties to China, ran a multi-million-dollar criminal organization, and has every reason to flee. And the judge's response, we considered all of it, but we don't even care. Guys, let's think about the logic for a second. Chen orchestrated an operation that recruited dozens of Americans as fronts, funneled money from China to Oklahoma, then possibly back to China, operated multiple illegal grow facilities, shipped product across state lines to illegal markets, generated hundreds and hundreds of $millions in revenue. In Oklahoma, they say, yeah, let him post bond. What's the worst that could happen? It's not like he has connections to foreign organized crime networks with resources to make him just kind of disappear.
They were already operating on the black market, but they were in places like California and New Mexico and other states. And during the pandemic, they came here, set up shop, and continued to work seamlessly, hiding behind a piece of paper that said that some local person is the owner who got a squeaky clean background.
The entire system is infiltrated, which means Chen isn't some lone wolf entrepreneur. He's a cog in the machine that's even bigger than Oklahoma can handle. And they just let him walk out knowing full well he's got an entire transnational criminal organization backing him up. You know what the flight risk is here? 100%. Hands down, Chen's not sticking around for trial. He's going to be sipping tea in China before the ink even dries on his bond paperwork. While judges are releasing Chinese mob bosses on bond, Oklahoma's governor has decided on a different approach, shutting down the entire medical marijuana industry.
I'm concerned about the taking. As a law enforcement officer, I'd love for it to be gone.
Attorney General Gettner Drummond says he wants the marijuana industry
out of Oklahoma. Those are his comments just moments after he announced the results of Operation Blunt Force.
Notice the logic here, you guys. Chinese criminals exploit Oklahoma's medical marijuana system to build a $1 billion black market. So the solution is to punish legitimate businesses who had nothing to do with it. It's like shutting down all the banks because some of them got robbed.
I do applaud him for it, but don't hurt us because we have bad actors.
Governor Kevin Stitt says Oklahoma's medical marijuana system is beyond fixing, and now he wants to end it. But business owners say shutting it down would do more harm than good.
Thousands of legal operators, millions and millions of dollars in tax revenue, jobs
And
for
me as a
Oklahomians. I'm not even
patient,
sure if that's a real word, but because the state failed to enforce its own regulations and let Chinese triads set up shop, now everybody has to pay the piper.
Well, guys, that's right. One bill aims to continue the moratorium on marijuana business licenses here in Oklahoma. And if that fails, the other bill looks to cap how many licenses are given out.
3143 is just an extension of the moratorium for the marijuana license, begin August 126, expiring August 128.
Oh, now they want oversight and enforcement. Where was this 3 years ago when Chen was recruiting Americans to front his operation? Where was the seed to sale tracking when Chinese nationals were buying half of Oklahoma's grow license through straw purchasers? This is Oklahoma's governmental playbook. Ignore the problem until it becomes a crisis, then overcorrect so hard that it destroys the entire industry. Let's talk about the Americans who made this possible. But because Chinese Chen didn't force anybody at gunpoint to become a frontman, he paid them, and they said yes.
Chen is accused of being the leader of what the AG's office says is a criminal enterprise and running fraudulent marijuana licensing schemes.
$2 to $5 grand a month to let somebody use your name and social security number for a marijuana business that you didn't actually run. Sounds like easy money, right? Until the feds show up and you realize that you're legally liable for a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise. And here's what these geniuses didn't understand. When you put your name on a business license, you are not just a paperwork puppet. You are the owner of record, which means when that operation gets busted for trafficking, tax evasion, money laundering, and organized crime ties, your name is on everything.
But as states legalized it, these criminal groups from Mexico and now China moved their operations into the U.S.
Woodward says it was Oklahoma's medical marijuana laws that made it easy for criminal organizations to fly under the radar and appear to operate legally.
The laws, they try to follow the laws so that at least on the surface, there's no red flags. That's why it can be very complex to find out for sure what they're doing.
They didn't realize the legal consequences. Translation, they took Chinese mob money to commit fraud and thought that they never get caught. Now they're looking at federal prison time while Chen, the guy who actually ran the operation, is out on bond, planning his escape route. This is what happens when you sell your legal identity to a foreign criminal organization for pocket change. You get the charges, they get the profit. And when it all falls apart, they go home to China while you go to federal prison. Oklahoma is not unique. This is happening everywhere medical marijuana is legal, but enforcement is weak.
A small price for a license, and yet the people behind that license are transnational criminal organizations that have been operating in the black market realm for a number of years before Oklahoma even legalized it.
California, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, same scheme. Chinese nationals recruit Americans as fronts. Americans get licenses. Chinese run the operation. Product gets diverted to black markets in illegal states. Money flows back to China. Rinse, repeat until the feds finally notice. And the response? Release the ringleader on bond and threaten to shut down the entire industry instead of just enforcing existing laws. You know what would actually fix this? Prosecute the Americans who sold their identities, deny bond for foreign nationals running criminal enterprises, enforce regulations already on the books. I know. It's crazy ideas. But instead, Oklahoma's playing whack-a-mole while Chinese organized crime laughs all the way to the Agricultural Bank of China. America, Operation Blunt Force just exposed a $1.5 billion marijuana trafficking ring run by Chinese organized crime using American citizens as disposable fronts. And Oklahoma's response tells you everything you need to know about how broken the system is. Chinese Chen, the mastermind who recruited Americans to front his criminal empire, walks out on bond despite prosecutors proving he's a flight risk with direct ties to China. Meanwhile, the Americans he manipulated are facing federal prison time because they were dumb enough to sell their identity for a monthly check. The governor wants to shut down the entire medical marijuana industry because the state failed to enforce its own regulations. Thousands of legitimate businesses threatened with closure because bureaucrats can't be bothered to notice that the Chinese triads were buying up licenses through
That's
straw
crazy.
purchasers.
Now the
And
patients
instead
are
of
the ones that
fixing
are going
the
to suffer.
enforcement problem, politicians burned down the
That's
entire
bullshit.
industry. Chinese Chen not showing up for trial. He's already planning which province in China is far enough away from extradition treaties. The Americans he recruited will spend years in federal prison, wondering how $3,000 a month turned into a life sentence. And Oklahoma will destroy a legitimate industry because admitting regulatory failures is harder than collective punishment. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in
No,
the
that's
comment section
fucked
down
up.
below.
That's how I
Smash the
feel.
like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
Next one. Please for your upload. Yeah, it just pisses me off because like patients are the ones that are going to suffer because if they close up all these places, then where the medical patients are going to go. See, because I'm a medical patient and I smoke my medicine every day on my show. So I don't know. I don't know how that's just a mess that there's no oversight. There's nobody overlooking who's buying and who's putting up for all these businesses, and there's loopholes and shit, and when you get someone very slick that's a very opportunistic person that is really trying to get the money pretty much as fast as possible, he doesn't care if he's going to get in trouble because like Houdini, he was out of jail and he's gone. You ain't going to find that man ever again. He's out of here. And our system, our court system, the kangaroo court system, yeah, it's a bunch of kangaroo shit. All right, here's the last video of the night. It's coming from Tyson Del Cruz. Let's watch.
A Fox camera exclusively rolling as the FBI raided one of the suspected stash houses.
America, you just watched the FBI execute one of the largest gang takedowns in Los Angeles history, Operation Dead Horse. 12 members of the 18th Street Gang arrested.
The 18th Street Gang is a transnational criminal organization that controls the rampant drug trafficking in multiple areas of Los Angeles.
175
You
pounds
gotta
of
add one.
fentanyl and meth seized. And here's the part that Gavin Newsom doesn't want you to know. This gang has 100,000 members operating across the United States.
This is the state of MacArthur Park area. This is what it looks like right now.
And they turned MacArthur Park, you know, the one that Karen Bass protected when ICE was in Los Angeles, into an open air drug market right under his watch.
Following the president's direction, Attorney General Pam Bondi issued a memo implementing the president's order to mobilize federal law enforcement to prioritize the dismantling of these transnational groups.
What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Let me break down exactly who the 18th Street Gang is, because if you're not from the West Coast or in America, you might not realize the scale of this criminal organization. These weren't just like street corner drug dealers. This was a transnational criminal empire with tentacles stretching from El Salvador to Honduras to every major American city.
The 18th Street Gang is a transnational criminal organization that controls the rampant drug trafficking in multiple areas of Los Angeles, including MacArthur Park, parts of Hollywood, downtown, and the San Fernando Valley.
100,000 members, chat. That's larger than most military forces. And they've been operating openly in Los Angeles. They've been controlling territory, extorting businesses, trafficking drugs, all while Gavin Newsom pretended the real problem was plastic bags, plastic straws, and gas-powered vehicles.
Idiot. Different gangs own different parts of the park. Own as in they attempt to control. Here, this particular gang, the 18th Street gang, they try to control the northern part of the park. So everything above Wilshire Boulevard is claimed by the 18th Street gang, or at least was claimed until we've arrested them today.
They own different parts of the park, as in sovereign gang territory on American soil. California leadership, just let it happen. Now, let me show you what MacArthur Park actually looks like, because the media won't show you any of this. There's been bodies found in the body of water there, drug addicts, open air drug market, homelessness. This is what happens when Democrats prioritize criminals over citizens.
Actually, before I get into the specific defendants and the charges, I want you to see what we're doing here. This is the state of MacArthur Park area. This is what it looks like right now.
People passed out on the ground, drug users hanging over from the Fenty use, homeless tents used as drug stash houses. And the feds say this is a daily ordinance, not a one-time problem. This has been happening daily at MacArthur Park. Democrats create a homeless crisis by refusing to enforce laws. Gangs then move in and then use homeless encampments
MacArthur
as
Park is
cover
very
for
ghetto.
drug dealing. Law enforcement can't tell the difference
I
between
never-
somebody who's
I
homeless
can't
and
miss
somebody
MacArthur
who's
Park
running a
one
distribution
time.
network. It's the perfect criminal infrastructure, and Gavin Newsom's policies built them for it.
Evidence was collected highlighting the free flow of narcotics between distributors in the areas of MacArthur Park and Skid Row. These drugs were being taxed through extortion payments known as rents by high-ranking members of the gang.
If you don't pay the 18th Street gang their extortion money, you're done. Finito burrito. You are at risk of being... And my friends, this is happening at one of the most expensive cities in America, where law-abiding citizens pay some of the highest taxes in the nation. Now, here's where it gets even darker. Because of the leadership of the 18th Street gang isn't even on the streets. They're in California state prisons, giving orders through the Mexican mafia.
Part of this investigation does discuss how the shots, the leaders, are housed currently in California State Prison. The key thing is they need people at the outside to do their work, their dirty work. And those are the people that we went after today.
The Mexican mafia controls 18th Street from inside California prison systems. These aren't reformed criminals serving their time. They're CEOs running a criminal empire from behind bars. And California's correction system they just let it happen.
One of the alleged drug trafficking bosses arrested is a 60-year-old woman busted with meth, fentanyl, and guns.
A 60-year-old woman was one of the top bosses here. This isn't some teenager making bad choices on a random Tuesday. This is generational organized crime. It's been allowed to flourish for decades under Democrat leadership.
LAPD tells Fox the gang imports narcotics like fentanyl from the Mexican Sinaloa cartel at a discount, then marks up the price and sells lethal drugs all over the world.
Los Angeles isn't just a drug market. It is a logistics hub for global distribution. And Gavin Newsom's been governor under all of this. Now let's talk about how Governor Gavin Newsom created the conditions to actually make this happen, because this obviously didn't happen overnight. This is a result of decades and decades of Democrat policies prioritizing criminals over citizens.
The highest poverty rate, tied with Louisiana, the highest unemployment, and as Nick Kristof of the New York Times recently wrote, Mississippi schools outperform California schools, especially for poor kids.
Mississippi has schools that outperform California. This is what happens when Democrats run a state for 50 freaking years.
Every question about his abysmal record, he deflects into some other narcissistic comment about himself. He's so pleased with himself. I just see a kind of flim-flam guy who's totally destroyed California.
Absolutely right. He's a flim-flam guy, more worried about his slick back hair and presidential ambitions than the fact that gangs are charging rent to vendors in MacArthur Park. He'd rather talk about his brand than explain why 18th Street gang built a criminal empire under his watch.
Wherever there is free government money, there is fraud. The spigot of taxpayer cash comes out, and underneath it, holding open the bag, is fraudsters.
She's describing the perfect storm: sanctuary city policies, protect criminal aliens, massive welfare spending attracts obvious fraudsters, and weak law enforcement allows gangs to flourish. Newsom and his cronies created a cartel paradise and called it compassion, or California. Now watch what happens when you actually enforce the law. President Trump issued a directive to Attorney General Pam Bondi implementing it, and within weeks, the FBI took down a criminal organization that California and Gavin Newsom said it was too big to stop.
And the DOJ says it's going after cases like this because President Trump has instructed them to target open-air drug markets and transnational gangs.
Trump hasn't been president for 2 years for his second term, and they've done a lot. Meanwhile, Gavin Newsom has been governor for 6 freaking years, and he's been saying that he's going to clean up homelessness for 20 years. And now he's watching MacArthur Park turn into a cartel distribution center.
Today, my office is unsealing 7 indictments,
It was really dirty
charging
when I
14
went.
defendants with racketeering and drug trafficking offenses.
14
hot, too.
indictments, 12 arrests, 6 fugitives still being hunted. This is what law and order looks like. Not the defund the police bullcrap, not reimagining public safety garbage. Federal agents executing search warrants at the crack of dawn and putting handcuffs on cartel bosses. America, Operation Dead Horse just exposed the blueprint Democrats have been using to destroy American cities, create sanctuary policies that protect criminal aliens, build a massive welfare state that attracts fraudsters, defund and demoralize police so they can't enforce laws, then act extremely shocked when gangs take over entire neighborhoods. Gavin Newsom let 18th Street gang turn MacArthur Park into a Mexican mafia territory where they charge rent to street vendors and using homeless tents as drug stash houses. 100,000 gang members operate across America, controlled by prisoners giving orders from California jails. And here's your new truth. Trump just proved that federal enforcement works when you actually use it. 175 pounds of Fenty off the streets, 12 gang members in custody, a criminal empire disrupted. The question isn't, can we stop it? The question is, why did Democrats let it get so bad? It's simple, because enforcing laws against violent gangs doesn't poll well with your activist base. So they sacrifice American neighborhoods to protect their political brand. When Democrats run cities, cartels run wild. When Trump enforces laws, criminals go to jail. It's that simple. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for a great upload. What an upload. I said that was going to be the last video of the night. It was going to be, but we got a late entry that I want us to watch. So sit back, relax. It's an additional 11 minutes. Well worth it. Coming from Jason A. So let's go ahead and watch.
We know that we're living in really dark times. Like, these times are dark. We just get different flavors of like darkness. And right now it's really spicy flavor of darkness that we're experiencing. And I feel like the only thing that I want to do is make art. And anytime that I'm even out in the world, whether it's not even art, whether I'm just speaking, whatever I'm doing, I want to remind people that like we're more than like this BS that's going on. Like humans are actually like deeply caring and empathic creatures. And I think sometimes we forget that and we become distrustful and obviously, you know, take everything with a grain of salt. But I feel like what my heart is trying to say is music brings us all together. And I want that to be more than a superficial thing and actually like reached into the bone.
Situation for the Antichrist is just about present. The Antichrist has to be able to rule the world. He's not going to rule through governance. He's going to rule it through economies, even though he'll have control of the governments too. There has to be a unification of the worldwide economy.
What has happened that needed to happen and what still needs to happen?
Okay. What's really going on is not a financial war. What's really going on is not a material war, a military war. What's going on is a spiritual war.
De Niro's building a $1 billion studio. How is that going to make money? What's the business plan? Is it over 30 years? That's my question.
De Niro's 81, isn't he? Like, what? How old is De Niro?
But that's what I'm saying. In the rating system of Hollywood, PG-13, rated R, which rating is the most profitable?
I would say PG.
Wrong. It's G. The children's films that are animated stories like Cinderella are the most profitable in all of Hollywood, and yet they're 30% of the production. So why would the system make 70% of something that doesn't make as much as the 30%? Why? Because it's spiritual. Because the devil runs Hollywood, and he wants that negative 70% to teach your kids all these other things. But the 30%, which makes the most money, is happiness and loving your mom and dad, and they make the most money. Why would Hollywood make less of the most profitable?
The Middle East has been destroyed, right? Israel has no competitors. Iraq, Libya, Syria, they've all been burned to the ground. Iran is the last on the list. And so once you burn Iran to the ground, then Israel has complete dominance over the Middle East, and it can just rebuild the Middle East in a new image. And this new image will be one of AI surveillance. So ideas that you have, right? AI, digital currency, digital ID, you're going to face a lot of stiff resistance in America because Americans like their freedom. But hey, the Middle East has been destroyed. You can now replace your populations with Filipinos, with Chinese, with Indians, and then you can insert microchips into the bloodstreams, and now you have this perfect, surveillance state where everyone is monitored. But not only is everyone monitored, their emotions are constantly being calibrated, being controlled by their surveillance state. And so you basically have a slave state, and then you introduce transhumanism where, all the rich people in the world, they can go to Jerusalem and experience all this transhumanist technology, organ transplants that allow them to live to 150 years. So that's the very idea of Pax Judaica, right? Capital needs to move to a more safe place, which is Israel, but also these oligarchs, they want to achieve a transhumanist vision of the world. And so Israel has this technology, but also they want to create a surveillance state in order to maintain permanent control of the world, and that's Pax Judaica. But the world is heading towards a new place, a brave new world. We've never seen it before. It'll be complete chaos. And quite honestly, the goal is to kill as many people as possible because the world can't sustain 8 billion people. So you're trying to create as many conflicts as possible to reduce the population so that the population will be easier to govern, to create compliance. So again, I don't want to say too much because, I don't want to come across as conspiratorial or deranged or insane. But if you want to survive what's coming, you have to mentally prepare yourself. You have to tell yourself that maybe what I believe of the world is wrong. Maybe BRICS doesn't matter. Maybe China doesn't matter. Maybe it's all just a delusion. Maybe it's all these lies that the media has been feeding us in order to make us not understand what's really going on.
Well, before the Antichrist comes, one of the things that we know from the fathers of the church is that there will be a worldwide implosion of people's morality. So, which we've seen, right? So that's happened since the 1950s. So we have that. The other part of it is, again, is the unification of the worldwide economies, because he has to be able to control people en masse. The other thing is, too, is it has to be something that the people that are alive, that in order to survive, you have to be able to plug into that economy in some fashion. That's why they talk about the mark of the beast. Well, we're almost there. The mark of the beast is the inversion of what they call the mark of baptism. So it's going to be something in our bodies that will give us access to these particular things. They say that the Antichrist will be so charismatic and he will set himself up as the Messiah, but it'll be a political type of a thing.
What about the temple?
According to the fathers of the church, at least the ones that I've read, they said the temple will never be rebuilt. And it will never be rebuilt. And the reason being is because, first of all, Julian the Apostate tried to rebuild it and it was destroyed in the process. Christ actually put an end to the Jewish sacrifice on purpose because the Jewish sacrifice in the Old Testament was a lead up or a prefigurement of Christ. And so he gave them one generation in order for them to convert to Christianity. And when they didn't, he put an end to their sacrifice. So technically speaking, there hasn't been practicing Jews in 2,000 years because the temple hasn't been around. They haven't been able to offer sacrifice. Doesn't mean that they don't pray and things of that sort, but they haven't been able to enact their primary religious duties, which is to offer sacrifice. Plus their Levitic line, which is their priestly line, was destroyed. But then the difficulty is people tend to misinterpret the book of Daniel, which says when the abomination of desolation takes its seat in the temple. What they don't realize is that is not a reference to the Jewish temple. That's where the Protestants are getting it wrong. So a lot of the Protestants are thinking, oh, well, let's help the Jews rebuild the temple, and then that will usher in, because Christ is going to return, after they think the temple is going to be rebuilt. And then as a result of that, the temple has to be rebuilt in order for the Antichrist to put himself in there. So let's do that so that the Antichrist will come, and then that means that Christ will come. And that's kind of their reasoning behind it. Well, first of all, just getting through the years of the Antichrist is going to be brutal, so I wouldn't be pushing that. But the fathers of the church are very clear that it'll never be rebuilt, and that the reference to the abomination of desolation taking its seat in the temple is actually a reference to the Catholic Church. That there's going to be some way in which the situation in the church will become compromised to such a degree. Doesn't mean that people have to note it, but its essential elements will still remain intact, but that the Catholic Church itself would be compromised in that process.
For example, the latest Olympics opening ceremony, this big pentagram in the middle of it, or the one prior to that, also the Winter Olympics, the mockery of the Last Supper. I mean,
right.
What is this?
Did you ever see the ceremony for the opening of the tunnel in Switzerland? It was a full-blown ritual to Baphomet. And when they did the opening ceremonies for it, it was supposed to cut down on the travel significantly for people in between countries. And you can actually find it online, but when you watch it, it's a full-blown ritual to Baphomet. And so I think that's all part of the revealing of the method, that the people that are at the top of these political elite, the financial elite, even people that are in charge of, stuff like the ceremonies, Olympics and that type of thing, these people that are at the very top of it, they're doing this stuff because they're revealing their belief. They're revealing the method. The point is that demons are showmen, and so they get a certain amount of glory by this stuff being manifest in this life. And so that's why they like those two things being shown, to normalize people's exposure to it. So people have seen it enough to where they become comfortable with it. And then from there, then they can start opening up the avenue a lot more towards getting people to actually believe it. Once it becomes normalized, and they've seen it enough, then people get used to it.
You think pedophilia will become normalized? Massive display of that happening right now.
Yeah, there is. But I can see it getting to the point where, especially if they start the psychological approach, which is, what they're trying to do now, they're trying to remove pedophilia from the DSM. Because once it's removed from the DSM, then you can decriminalize it, and then you can go from there. They want to do that, and I can see it becoming normalized in that fashion if they keep maintaining it. Because right now, the Epstein thing is to expose people to it in such a degree, and at the high level people being involved in it is done in such a manner that they want to give people the impression that it's more ubiquitous, that it's everywhere, everybody's doing it, or that people who reach this, it's normal for the people who get to the top to do this kind of thing.
And why do you think this is all being revealed right now?
I think part of it's the revealing of the method. I think part of it is
it showmanship.
I think a lot of it's that.
Is there any good coming from it being revealed?
What's the good that's coming from it is that a majority of the population, at least in this country, is starting to realize that, we have some sick people that are running things. So I think that's a good thing that people actually know, because this stuff has been around for a while. Part of it is, too, is I think God is forcing it to the surface so that we see how evil of a people we've become.
What do you think comes next?
I think we're going to get a divine spanking. I think we're going to have some type of wars, because it says right in the scripture, it says that the wages of sin is death. I just don't see how we're not going to get out of this situation without mass death.
Wow. Great video, Jason A. And I'm about to wrap it up. I'm tired and I'm ready to go to bed. This spring forward, gotta get used to it. I kind of like it. I like it more than the fall back. Fall back, I feel like it slows me down. But spring forward, I feel more energized. So with that said, have a good morning, good afternoon, and a good night, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Trying to figure out this Pokemon thing and see what I'm gonna do to gather and get more subscribers onto the channel. Gotta try to reach that 1,000. So gotta do my due diligence and try to get more people to come on here. So we'll see. Have a good night, everyone, and stay safe. Peace.